Bosmeyer backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Tried to force the play, and it's intercepted. DJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on a Monday, and we are a week from tomorrow from being in Frisco inside the Star Cowboys headquarters for Big 12 Media Days. Next Tuesday and Wednesday will be their full throttle. Both of those days, there was a list released earlier today on who will attend based on what program, and we'll do a little bit of that later in the show as well. But we've got news on Jake Retzlaff, the quarterback at BYU, at least for now. Let's get to this because it obviously is something we've seen that's going to happen, and now some official news. Jake Retzlaff entering after being told, most likely the report from Kevin Reynolds, a 7-game suspension for violating the school's honor code, likely to leave the program. So that was the first note. That's from Kevin Reynolds. Pete Thamel came up with this one soon after, that he plans to enter the transfer portal and began informing the staff and players of his plan to leave. Then after that, you have this. Jay Drew from the Deseret newspaper. On Sunday, attorneys on Monday filed a joint motion to dismiss with prejudice the civil lawsuit filed against BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff on May 21st. With prejudice means the action cannot be brought again. And so that came down. It has been dismissed. Paul and Craig, this is a lot of news in the last 24 hours, but the news is that he is no longer going to be at BYU.
I mean, this all kind of came in probably not in my head. I've tried to line it up of the series of events here, because some of it doesn't make sense in out of order. So my feeling is that he knew that the lawsuit was going to get dismissed last week. He also knew that because his legal defense was that he had consensual premarital sex, that was a violation of the honor code that he signed and knew he was signing when he went to BYU in the first place, and then he was going to get suspended. And then he knew that he could go in the transfer portal and go in that sequence. Now, how the suit got dismissed or why, we don't know. Those details are not out there yet. If there was a settlement, usually they announced that there was, but we don't know those things yet. It was a joint filing for dismissal. So now Jake Retzlaff on to somewhere else. And Jay Drew, said that he has interest from a significant place if that holds, and we'll find out where he goes. But now BYU has to go in with another quarterback competition and would seem to think that former Stanford QB Bear Bachmeier is the leader in the clubhouse for that, but they were in the same situation last year. Jake Retzlaff wasn't the starter until week 1. He didn't go into the season knowing that. So here we go again for the Cougars and finding a quarterback.
Yeah, I just think the whole situation sucks. I mean, for BYU fans and also for those involved, to what degree they're innocent or had their names smeared or what have you. I just hope that in the end, what should happen is what happens. And I think the case getting dismissed is a step in that direction and good for, I guess, Jake Retzlaff in that regard. But, yeah, I think you're right, Paul. I think you nailed that. All those things kind of line up and lead to him being able to go, all right, well, I'm in the portal, and I already have a team apparently that he's talking to. So that was quick, but not surprising. And, yeah, it's just a whirlwind of the last 24 hours or so, but not a surprising whirlwind. This wasn't just a tornado that dropped on your head out of nowhere. This was something that was building for a few weeks ever since that first report came out about the allegations. And, I just hope that Jake Retzlaff is able to, if in fact he's, completely innocent, this was all consensual as it appears to really be on the surface in a lot of ways, that his name isn't smeared and he gets his opportunity to defend himself or to be free and clear and, for the alleged victim or whatever. Like, there's a lot of messy talk. I'm sure you guys have noticed. Like, anytime, like BYU and Utah, God love you guys, but man, sometimes like y'all just take it to these levels where, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. And so there's a lot of messy allegations flying on social media about like the accuser and all that. I'm gonna stay away from all that and kind of like how all this came to be. But man, if you want to get into a mess, just wade into those waters and get into this conversation happening and who's at fault and who created the situation and all of that. But yeah, it's just super unfortunate. And I think BYU fans, for the most part that I've seen, have accepted it and kind of knew that this was always going to be the case. I mean, once it was known, not that he had committed assault or alleged to have committed assault, but once it was known that he was having premarital sex with this girl, that was an honor code violation. And that is something they strictly adhere to. And once that was not up for debate, it was an admission or it was a conclusion that you reached that it did in fact happen, then yeah, that created the problem of Jake Retzlaff being on that roster any longer, no matter what was happening with the civil case itself. So this was not surprising that it happened. I think it was just a matter of when, not if. And so most had prepared themselves for this to be the case. It was just a matter of, is this going to happen before media days? Like, how are they going to trot that out next week? You figure something was going to happen soon. And so it did. And, we'll see. There's a 3-way, I guess, dance for the quarterback spot. You mentioned Bachmeier. I know we'll get to the other ones as well. And I'm very curious to see where Retzlaff lands. Very curious to see who wins that quarterback battle. Very curious to hear from Kalani Sitake next week. And I don't think this drastically changes BYU's season. I don't think he was like the end-all, be-all to them being good, but it definitely it flattens one of the tires heading right into the season. So it'll be interesting to see how they are able to, to deal with this.
Well, they have 3 quarterbacks in the depth chart room. Also today, a little bit later on, Matt Baiamonte from KSL Sports will join us at around 5 our time, Central Time, and discuss the quarterback depth chart. Some of you on a few of the things when it comes to the lawsuit being dismissed. For example, from the firefighter, 1C57, dismissed with prejudice is a pretty big deal. Judges do not issue such orders lightly. Then also this, need to know what joint means. Was it 2 parties filing a motion to dismiss, or was it one party, Retzlaff, filing a motion to dismiss along with something else, like an answer to the lawsuit? From firefighter, it could be, I'd assume any settlement would be sealed. However, if any actual fault was admitted in a settlement, I'd highly doubt a judge would then be willing to add prejudice to his or her decision.
Yeah,
both sides filed the joint motion. So yeah, they both agreed to dismiss this case with prejudice, or they both agreed to dismiss it. I get Paul handled the legal stuff. I'm going to step into.
They both agreed to dismiss it with prejudice, which means she can't do it again. Each party has to bear their own attorney's fees. Called it resolved. So all of those things, but again, if there's a settlement, it's sealed. But a lot of times even though it might be sealed, somebody's going to say, like they're going to let out like, oh, by the way, she got paid. Those are the things. But if it's dismissed with prejudice, then I would think that there's probably not a settlement there.
So the 3 quarterbacks now competing for that job. One of them is McKay Hillstead. He's one. The other one, Bear Bachmeier, you mentioned him, Paul. He and his brother transferred to BYU for this football season. And Trayson Bourget is another one who played at Salt Point Catholic High School in Arizona He is one who has a very high ceiling, it appears. And then McKay might be one of those guys that's an undersized quarterback, but kind of just gets things done. Bachmeier, of course, we've heard. Wasn't he at Stanford at one particular point? And then he also had offers from Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan. Our guest at 5 o'clock, and even our guest today earlier in the 3 o'clock hour when we talked to Dave McCann will help us with a little bit more of the odds. One writer who covers BYU said Hillstead is a 45% favorite. Bear Bachmeier, 35%. Bourget is at 20%. So they're also already rattling off the possibilities of who starts.
Well, I mean, you got to now. I mean, yeah. I mean, now's the time to do that. I mean, the last few weeks, you kind of knew that you were going to be in this conversation anyways, but now it's official. Like, that's the conversation to have. So, yeah, I think that's what every BYU fan's doing is figuring out who the damn starting quarterback's going to be a week before media day starts. And we won't know that answer before next week. But, you know, that's going to be the conversation now. And I see, I guess it just kind of depends when I look on who the favorite is. But, you know, Bachmeier's a guy a lot of people seem to like. McKay Hillstead's a guy that comes over from Utah State. So they have some good options, it appears. You know, there is some youth to factor in, and there's, you know, just little intangibles here and there as we get to know these guys a bit more. But it seems as though they're at least moving forward with a room that can produce a starter that's going to be able to pick up the ball dropped by Jake Retzlaff and run with it pretty well. Now, you know, again, like I said earlier, he was very good last year. Jake Retzlaff was good. I don't want to discount him in any way, but I don't think it's like make or break, like the team wise.
I don't think this is you losing Bryce Young or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like he's good. He was a good leader for the team. I don't like using the term bus driver, but like he was a bus driver plus. He wasn't putting up crazy stats, and he was distributing and leading, and that's really hard to come by. Some people don't even have a bus driver on their roster. They have 5 quarterbacks. None of them have their license, all those things. But this is not a mountain to climb as if, you know, you had lost someone, of like Heisman caliber talent.
Nearly 3,000 yards passing, threw for 20 touchdowns, picked off 12 times. And I saw some others. And some of this also might be because obviously his era is over at BYU. We're trying to downplay his importance. It's not so much that, but he was, if you look at all the quarterbacks in the Big 12, probably in the middle of the pack in that area when it comes to who was the most effective last year.
I mean, those conversations don't really matter now, but yeah, I think he was probably somewhere in the second, third tier if you were to try to do a rankings of some sort. Certainly a guy who's got some skill and did some huge things for them last year. And yeah, I don't want to discount him now. Like, oh, he's gone. Let's like crap all over. I'm not going to do that at all.
Like when a recruit decommits,
he's not irreplaceable. That's all we're saying. And so that's the good news if you're a BYU fan is you've got some guys that appear like they can come in, pick up that ball, run with it. Still have a really good defense, got great skill guys around whoever that's going to be. Big offensive line, great coaching. So I think it'll be a matter of like who knows the offense, you know, who executes the best and does the things that the coaches are looking for to the degree they're looking for those to determine who the starter will be. And that'll be, I guess, just stuff that we hear trickle out over the next few weeks. And obviously we'll hear quite a bit next week because they'll have to answer questions. They might not elaborate much, but they're going to have to answer questions. And, you know, everybody's going to ask Sataki about this, you know, this quarterback spot. So at least they have that clarity now. But I think, again, that BYU's been preparing for this. I mean, again, once the honor code situation came up, as far as him being on the team, that was the catch to it, as opposed to, I feel like the lawsuit allegations, like that certainly complicated things, but there's the honor code violation that you go, oh, that's going to probably get him booted off the team if this stands as it usually does.
At least suspended,
or it gets suspended. I mean, and so, yeah, that's exactly what he was looking at. But I think as Paul laid out at the top of the show, he knew and clearly had started lining up some things like, hey, I'm going to jump in the portal. The lawsuit's going to get dropped. He's already been contacted or vice versa. And I think BYU was ready as well, knowing that, this was probably they knew the outcome was he's going to get suspended for a good amount of games. And that if he was going to get suspended, there's a chance he's probably going to jump in the portal. So I think everybody saw this day coming. It was just a matter of when, not if, and here we are.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing, I've had several people, and I'm sure there are people in the chat wondering, like, how enforceable is the honor code, or like how often does this happen? I would say that like it probably gets violated by regular students, semi-regularly, but they wouldn't know about it because they don't talk about it. It probably would have never come up nobody would have known if Jake Retzlaff hadn't been, served with this lawsuit, that he had been violating the honor code.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be talking about his sex life.
Yeah, we would be talking about his sex life. So the reason this happened is this lawsuit.
You might be. I don't know. I don't know what kind of story. No, I'm just kidding.
It's just, so now he had to, it's a very unique thing where, your legal defense is what also gets you suspended from your football team. It doesn't happen every place. In fact, it only happens there. But he knew what he was getting into when he got there.
You signed up for it. You knew what you were getting into. And, there's been others that violate the honor code and they get suspended.
There's a basketball player named Brandon Clark years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, there's it's not hard. You can pretty easily find where this has come into play before. So, again, this wasn't some shocking, oh, my God, I can't believe they're suspending. No, that was pretty much a given all along. It was a matter of what that suspension looked like and what the fallout would be. And the suspension was lengthy enough that, he decided that he's going to go jump in the transfer portal. And because this lawsuit's dropped, he doesn't do that with his name all muddy still. It's, pretty much free and clear, maybe outside of just the remaining stigma. And, we'll see how much he's courted by other schools. I'm sure it won't take long to hear where that's going to be, given the season's right upon us.
Well, and my question, and I saw this earlier, because of the situation, can he transfer and play for an FBS school this fall?
If he's a graduate, right?
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah. I don't know that. But so Phil Steele, somebody asked about what was the write-up on him. Just a little note or two. He started the last 4 games of the 23 season, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And this was if, in fact, Retzlaff had decided to come back to play this year, which was a part of this story. If Retzlaff returns, they are improved. But if not, they will not drop off much with what they have in their quarterback depth room. And they mentioned Bachmeier, the names Hillstead and others, Bourget, in that particular article.
Yeah, he's graduated from BYU, so he can go wherever he wants to. Yep. And he'll be free and clear, and there won't be anything to stop that. But just a real shame. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about the big NIL deal. I forget what the company was, but it tied into his Jewish heritage. I forget what was it, like a
wafer
food thing?
It's a wafer or a cracker?
Yeah, something like
matzah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, that was a story, 6 months ago, I feel like? It was probably longer than that now because we're already in midsummer time. But that's when things were probably at their peak and going really well. And they obviously had a tremendous season. So, you got this few months of we're going to have him back and we're going to have these guys back and this is what it's going to look like. And then you were throwing a curveball, but I trust that Kalani Sitake and his staff and his team were already preparing for this. And I know I've said that a few times, but I think everybody was. I think everybody that understands kind of how all this was going to work to begin with knew that this was a very likely, if not the most likely outcome. So I don't think anybody's suddenly waking up today in Provo going, oh my God, what are we going to do? I think they were prepared for it. He was clearly prepared to make his move when this all got finalized with the lawsuit, and we'll see where he goes, and we'll see how they do, and we'll see what they have to say next week in Frisco, Texas.
All right. A lot of you having your discussions about it and asking questions, too, which we appreciate to try to give you some feedback from Payson Cougar fan. The rules say he still had to declare for the portal by the end of last April, which was just a couple of months ago. Even as a grad transfer, now he must seek a waiver from the NCAA. That's from Payson Cougar fan 7885. So I'm sure with the way the rules are that he'll end up who takes him. He's not guilty, yet there is this cloud. So is whoever was to accept him to come on their campus to play football, he is a talent. The question is, do they have the ability to overcome any backlash that might come their way, no matter how you believe what this is one way or the other?
Well, look, it got dismissed. So any coach and administrator that wants him is just going to say that. It got dismissed. Now, had it not gotten dismissed, then they would have to answer the questions of, well, you're taking this risk of, oh, yeah, well, we believe him. Okay, that hasn't ended up well for people in the past. So that's why, I mean, clearly he wouldn't have had this leverage to do this had he not been the lawsuit been dismissed. If he just knew he was going to get suspended 7 games, he was probably going to have to wait this out.
All right, if you're a BYU fan and you're on watching us today and you're in the chat room, let us know how you feel. I would think that this is like turned your world upside down after what kind of a year BYU had last year, ending with the bull rout of Colorado and all of the momentum into the offseason. Just getting your feedback on what you think about what this means. And Kalani Sitake, as Craig said, and his staff, they have already been thinking about the next level or next decision or next step in this process, and they will go straight into that.
Yeah, so it's all very confusing on how the transfers and stuff work sometimes, especially when they're odd situation like this. Based on what everybody's acting as though that waiver's a guarantee if that's what he has to do. I mean, because there's no reporting that I've seen that's like, well, if he's able to, it's like he's already found his school and we're going to like hear from that pretty soon is what it sounds like. So I don't know. You point out that there's a waiver that must be had, and I'll defer to you on that, but I'm operating with the assumption rather than getting into the logistics of it that he's just going to be able to go and transfer and play somewhere. I think that's what everybody's assuming right now. So yeah, we'll see very soon where that is. And I'm very curious about where that is. Yeah, I think it's a crappy situation. But I think BYU fans that I've seen for the most part wish him well and thank him for what he did there, are also in some cases a little bit pissed that he created this situation to begin with, and that this is even a conversation happening on June the 30th, the week before media days. And so the basic gist that I got after kind of perusing through some stuff yesterday was, thanks for the memories. Good luck to you. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. We don't wish you ill will, but we are ready to turn the page and find another great quarterback to lead us this year. And I think that's the right mindset to have.
Landon Magnuson. I think a lot of BYU fans are just really disappointed. He signed up for what he signed up for, and then he lied to his team and the public by saying he never did it to avoid penalties. Honor should mean something. That's from Landon. Everyone hopes that he does well at his next stop, but it's a real shame that it had to happen. Thank you, Landon, for your feedback in the chat room.
And when you are going to a place that has an honor code that is unique, and you do need to ask yourself, like, am I willing to do this for 4 years or so? And if you're not, then you don't need to go to that place. And understandably, like, human urges are a different kind of a thing. But if you have, I don't know. It's a difficult decision for teenagers to make if you are not of the LDS faith, I would think, to sign that honor code and think it's just going to, like, I'll be fine, I'll get away. Like, no, I mean, like if you put them in a place where they're going to have to enforce it, like Jake Retzlaff did, they're going to enforce it because that's what they do for everybody. So,
yeah, I think when this story initially popped, it was, at least in my head, and I very quickly realized differently, but I automatically went to just the generic line of thinking of, well, if this happened at insert school here, they'd find a way to keep their starting quarterback. They'd fight this to some degree, but this is a different case. This is BYU, and it's unique in that way. And I respect that. Like they stick to their guns regardless if it's the starting quarterback coming back for one more run or if it's the whatever sciences major. I mean, it's the same across the board, and that's the way it should be. And so, yeah, you knew what you were signing up for, and you broke a rule and found yourself in a messy situation, and it all sucks. But I think BYU's ready to move on. Jake Retzlaff, I'm sure, is ready to move on, and I think that both will be okay in the long run, and I especially feel that way towards BYU. But I'm glad that I guess for people maybe didn't know, or maybe if you thought otherwise, that this isn't your typical, oh, it's college football, they'll find a way to keep him eligible so that they can go win their title. It's like, no, this is different territory at a different school with different set of rules, and doesn't work exactly that way. And here's the example of that.
Paul, you might need a top 5 on where he lands.
I don't know. Like, the thing is that I would guess like places like Tennessee and USC, if they're talking about big, but like most people know what they're going to do right now. And
well, I know those places need quarterbacks, but who they have on campus, is he that much of an upgrade?
that's my thing. It's like, okay, if you've been working all this time at USC with Jordan Maiava, I mean, is he again
that much better, worth coming in, learning a whole new offense and learning new teammates and learning just where to drive every day, like all that stuff? Yeah,
I've been
probably
trying
not.
to think of somebody who's just got this big gaping hole on their roster at quarterback, and I can't really think of it. You know, I like Garrett and I went through it. Like, look, okay, Joey Aguilar is at Tennessee. Tennessee would make some sense but you already went and made that deal with Joey Aguilar, so why wouldn't you just kind of ride that out instead of bringing in a fourth quarterback to a competition, unless you think he's that much better than Joey Aguilar. So, you know, I mean, I'm just going through schools and I can't think of one that would definitely need him right now, unless he's willing to go to a big time place and possibly be the backup, just because it'll be you get to be Julian Sands backup at Ohio State. I don't know, like that. That's the only other thing I can think of, because I'm drawing a blank on anywhere that hasn't already kind of made that decision with a similar player.
Doesn't UCF need a quarterback?
Yeah, UCF would seem to make some sense, but
that'd be weird to bring him in conference. But
yeah,
I mean, they've got some options down there. Don't get it.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean, Garrett. Like, they don't have like a surefire name guy like a lot of basically everybody else in the Big 12 has somebody that's got a little meat on the bone. They've got some guys with very little experience that are kind of unproven. So yeah, I mean, he'd be more proven than their room for sure. But yeah, I don't know if that's a gamble that Scott Frost would take or not. But you're right though, in that it's hard to figure out just that. If 5 months ago it would have been Tennessee, right? It would have been like no brainer. Like, oh, he's going to Tennessee. That makes all the sense in the world. But now, yeah, I'm curious like anybody else about to where he's going. And I looked around and people are still throwing out Tennessee and still throwing out the same schools that needed quarterbacks 5 months ago. It's like, well, they've addressed that, so I don't know.
Here's a Tennessee fan, General Ursus, who has been on with us for quite some time. If it wasn't for the nature of the situation, I would say my Vols should roll the dice on Retzlaff. But Heupel has built a great culture here in Tennessee and doesn't need the stigma. So there we are with that.
Having said that, I agree with you. Having said that, would it surprise y'all if they?
No,
not at all. Yeah,
and that's not a shot at Tennessee or whatever.
No, not.
There's someone in the chat, and I'm sure others who are watching not in the chat. Hey, he's been cleared of the charges.
Well,
and it's just a matter. It's not so much if somebody would like his talent, are they strong enough and on board enough, and the spine from the president all the way down to the football program together enough to be able to handle backlash, because there will be some.
Again, joint dismissal with prejudice to me would seem to be a lot better than a lot of these things that are kind of out there and in the cosmos of like, well, we don't know what happened. And it doesn't,
there's that. And I know we got to go to some other things here, but you're right. This is a guy who's had this case dropped, joint dismissal. So whatever stigma there is should be very little, honestly. But yeah, there would be some, and Tennessee doesn't necessarily have to take that on. I don't think I think you're still somewhat programmed about like the Baylor situation years ago, where there's going to be like this massive media microscope on Jake Retzlaff. There's not going to be a media microscope. Now there might be if he goes to Knoxville, because there's a microscope on that football program, but I don't think it's going to be daily outside the line reporting and things like that, especially when, again, it's been jointly dismissed. So he's free to go wherever he wants to. There's no criminal thing in play here. So it's more or less just public opinion that is the stigma at this point.
A couple of notes about Northwestern as a landing spot.
Okay.
There's been Oklahoma State fans that say, hey, we should at least kick the tires.
I thought about him. I did think about him. I just thought that maybe they'd be satisfied with what they have, but that did cross my mind.
I don't know who Northwestern's quarterback is right now. Do you?
Gosh, no, he's a journeyman. He's been in a couple places.
It's Preston Stone, guys.
Oh, okay.
It is
Was
Preston
at SMU.
Stone.
Yeah, pretty good player.
He transferred
pretty
there
good player.
after losing out to Kevin Jennings last year and kind of fading into oblivion, quite frankly. And that was all I found to be kind of strange. I thought he was going to be a pretty good player, and got beat out by Kevin Jennings and transferred to Northwestern.
And Kevin Jennings is a hell of a player, so getting beat out by him is not like something to hang your head. And he got a job, at least right now, at Northwestern. Texas State. this would have been normally the story we would have led the show with today. But after all of the speculation, Mike Craven will join us today at 4:25 because he has written about this, and we've discussed it too. They officially this morning authorized a payment of $5 million for the buyout to leave the Sun Belt Conference, clearing the way for the next story, which the Pac-12 has voted that they are going to add Texas State. 9 teams, 8 football teams. Texas State is now a member of the Pac-12 starting in 2026.
Yep, $5 million is a lot less of a buyout than a lot of the ones we've seen over the years, but that also, is why they could do this the way they wanted to do it. So, this was not a surprise. You talked about it a lot on Friday. You guys left, and then the official announcement came down. And I was like, well, now
that's what happened when I was in Florida one week, wasn't it? When Colorado and
absolutely. So it was just the next step in the process, and knew that it would be. So,
Clint Moses, you're a big Pac-12 fan. Tell me what you think about this in the chat room, Craig.
It's just official now. So I think we talked about this at the end of last week, and we weren't here on Friday, but you guys covered that, and don't have too much to add outside of what I said the last time we were on air, which is I think it's a great opportunity for Texas State. I think given the situation the Pac was facing where more obvious teams or maybe better fits were not doable for financial reasons, mostly, that you had to kind of go down the line, and you end up finally landing in a spot where Texas State's the team. They're gung-ho for it. This isn't one of those disgruntled like Utah joining begrudgingly joining. They are as excited as they could possibly be. I do think it takes away from my whole geography's awesome thing with the Pac-12 where it was perfect. But I did see the joke made quite a bit of this is the All-State Conference. This is Gonzaga notwithstanding, this is the conference that has all the state schools, almost like that's a requirement. So if All-State is not going to sponsor the Big 12 with naming rights, then this would be a logical choice to go with, being the All-State Conference. But outside of kind of ruining the perfect geography, or not perfect, but pretty good geography, it doesn't really do that. I think adding Texas is just a no-brainer, and Texas State was already traveling a good bit just in the other direction, basically. So that's nothing new to them, and it's a bigger name, and it's new places you go to and some bigger teams in some cases. So I think it's a great deal for the Bobcats as they continue to try to build their profile. I think it's a nice ending to this chapter for the Pac-12, or gosh, what do we call? Do we call them the Pac-12?
No, it's the Pac-12. It's like the Big 12's got 16.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
The Big 10's got 37.
I mean, nevertheless, they just added their 8th football team and their 9th overall. But yes, the Pac-12. I think it's a good get to just finally bring this. We don't have enough teams. We need to get enough teams bar met. Now they've done that. Now they can move forward and move on to the next things on the agenda, and there's no more speculating about how they're going to meet that requirement. So good deal for Texas State. And I think there's a lot of excitement for just the new Pac and for what the Bobcats bring to the table.
President Damphus, the AD Don Coryell, the football coach G.J. Kinney. They set this up. When they needed a president, they wanted somebody that understood the value of athletics, but also understood the incoming of what the changes were in college athletics. Mike Craven joins us at 4:25. He'd written about Texas State last week as this became just all but something that was going to happen. GJ, he made a difference now, 8-5 and 8-5, an exciting brand. They followed up 1 year, validated the next year, and I think the style of play and who they are, he had a lot to do with the excitement here too.
Yeah, they're a very, Texas-style football team now in the modern sense of fun offense. And, look, at San Marcos, cool place, so they had a lot of things attractive to them. And, I think that it's going to be interesting. And, I hate it for these other conferences like the Sun Belt and Conference USA. And, I'm sure we'll have official announcements about Louisiana Tech, taking Texas State's place in the Sun Belt soon if those reports continue to be true.
And good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good for them if in fact La Tech ends up being able to do that. Garrett, let's go with the interior linemen in the Big 12. This was something Paul sent over the weekend. This is one of those Pro Football Focus highest graded interior lineman. And I got to tell the story on me. So I sent this note to Mason Miller, the offensive line coach at Baylor, because I asked about Sidney Fugar, who's a hell of a left tackle. And I went, shouldn't he be a part of this list? Paul, why is Sidney not, or any outside tackle on this list?
Because they're internal offensive line. Interior. See,
I thought I was going to get a nice quote from Mason Miller.
And not to knock fantasy football focus or pro football focus. I'm old school. Are you a guard or are you a tackle? And they kind of like lump all these people together. And I didn't really think about this at all, this terminology, until we had to start voting for players in something.
Yeah.
And
which we don't.
And which we get to still get to vote for players. We don't get to vote for the teams.
We got scolded.
But yeah, I absolutely I don't like it. Like, just tell me guards, tackles, centers. All three jobs are different.
Well, but guards and centers are interior linemen.
They are interior linemen, but the center has a different job than the guard does.
Yeah, but they're usually a little bit more bulky.
Yeah,
tackles are larger, taller, and even more have like the Ashley Hodge basketball wingspan. So there we are with that. Before we take a break and come up with our first guest, Dave McCann, who it covers BYU, the note over the weekend that the Big 12 is not going to have a media poll, I laughed my ass off on that. I understand why they're doing it. I did see a couple of snarky remarks about, well, this is a shot at the media that doesn't say much. No, it's not. It's not at all. It's something that I get it. It's a young conference if you think about it, because 8 of the 16 teams are new and in the last couple of years. But I didn't lose sleep having to think about who I'm going to vote for in the media poll. Could care less if we ever do that.
Yeah, I saw one of those Brian Davis from down in Austin, who we know is being kind of a smug dick about taking a shot at the media over them taking away the poll. I don't know where he is now, but I came across that. I thought that was just an unnecessary shot at him, and I think that if anything, the media is glad that the poll's not like I know we're going to do it at some point on our own, anyways, but. Rather than scramble to try to come up with this list for next week, like, oh, that's one less thing I have to do. That's great. And I think their reasoning is still not fully explained, but I do think, just in throwing about in my own head, that the whole narrative about, well, Arizona State in this conference, anybody can beat anybody, and they went from 16th to 1st and this and that, like, you hear that, and from the outside especially, you don't think that everybody being able to beat everybody is necessarily a great thing. Mm-hmm. There are no great teams because you're all equal. And so that, and we could go deeper on that conversation and more like spread out that conversation. But at the heart of it, I think that is something that the preseason poll for a league like the Big 12 and what happened last year, it is damaging because, it's like Arizona State, like, well, they can't be that great. They were voted 16th and they're all the way to 1st. And you get into why everybody being on an even playing field is an awesome thing for week in, week out action, but maybe isn't the best thing for overall perception, especially for those who aren't watching you on a week-to-week basis and don't understand the elements of everybody being so equal, and that it doesn't mean that there's no really good to great teams that can't go beat a Texas or a whoever. It's just that there's a lot of equal teams, and that doesn't mean they're not good, but I do think there was sort of a conversation around Arizona State and the poll, and that some of that could have hurt them last year. And look, it was wildly wrong, but I would say you've added 8 new teams in the last 2 years from different conferences, 1 independent, 3 American schools, 4 from the Pac-12, all in the last 2 years. Nobody knew what the hell to expect from this league. So, yeah, a lot of people were wrong, myself included. We'll own that. I think it's just a smart move because it maybe adds conversation, but we can do our own preseason poll anyways. We don't need the league to say, this is the official preseason poll. So I don't think it takes away at all. And I think like the one guy I saw, like Brian and whoever else, I mean, if you want to think it's a shot at the media, that's fine. But I think bigger picture than that, it's just a confusing league to try and follow. And if you want to go ahead and throw your preseason poll out there and we'll go check it at the end of the year, I'd love to see it.
I don't want to do it. I'm absolutely threw up on my poll last year.
You know what? It was to me.
Remember we went live and we did it and recorded it and all that?
I would not eat cauliflower if cauliflower was the last thing, I'd be like, listen, guys, I'm going to starve. Like, if cauliflower was the thing keeping me away from being a zombie in the zombie apocalypse, I'd be like, you know what? Being a zombie seems way easier than this. And this to me was like saying, like, hey, if the world's out of cauliflower, I'm like, a hot diggity dog. Let's go. Because it is a really hard thing to do, like you said, Craig, in this conference, because it is. And look, not only that, throw in the new era of college football where rosters just swing left and right. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah, I want to see Brian Davis's preseason poll for the Big 12.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy, or anybody else that wants to think that it's easy. I mean, I found it incredibly difficult last year to try to figure out where to kind of place the Pac schools, especially because you don't know how it fits, and so it made for a mess of a season. As far as polls go, I think it's the right call on the conference's part. I really don't think it's a big deal. Big picture at all.
Yeah. When we come back, Dave McCann covers Utah, the state, and also BYU. Is in fact a part of broadcast with them too. He'll join us. He's next. This is 365 Sports. So I saw this note the other day, and I can't remember. It was from Prime Biology, and I bring this up is because I've my goodness, endorsed Petty Clinic Low T for over a decade. If you have an issue with your energy, sex drive, or so much more, maybe you're just not as strong as you used to be, you're lethargic, your sleep habits have all gone to hell, and you're added maybe a little body fat, and you normally are pretty lean. It could be because your testosterone drops. This is a note. Testosterone is more than just a sex hormone. It builds muscle, burns fat, sharpens your focus, and there are natural ways to boost it. And then there's also a way with Dr. Kent Petty at pettycliniclowt.com to help boost it too. Here's why. Here's how. If you have any of those symptoms, maybe one or, oh my God, maybe you have all of them, and you're just like your body's falling apart. Dr. Petty can help you find out if testosterone is the issue. He will set you up for you to go get your blood work. He will take care of that appointment, get the blood work, look at the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, your body and your mind and much more at pettycliniclowt.com.
Employee Pricing Plus is back at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are insane. Get a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab. Your choice. 1.9 for 72 months, or $12,000 off and 3.9 for 72 months, or a flat-out $16,000 off MSRP. Wow! Ford, GM, or Toyota owner? Take $1,500 more off only at Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Last call for Employee Pricing Plus at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a beast of a truck with a Ram 1-ton 4x4 Cummins diesel for just $52,995. Or go off-road with the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon and save $15,000 off MSRP. Only 2 left. Prefer an SUV? Get a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee for $10,000 off MSRP. Even better, a 2025 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for just $26,700. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So we spent quite a bit of time opening up this show with, as you can imagine, the Jake Retzlaff news and what's next for BYU, what's next for him. Dave McCann, this guy does a lot. That's why we have him on. BYU TV columnist for the Deseret News and co-host for the Y Guys podcast and columnist as well. He joins us, and we've had Dave on before. Dave, good afternoon. How you doing, sir?
It's good. I want to clarify a couple things. I'm okay on the cauliflower issue. Although my wife is pro cauliflower, so I'm with you in the studio there. And the second thing is, why is there a Vanderbilt hat over your right shoulder?
We have
I got a letter of acceptance there. No, I did not.
We have a lot of different ones that we had a sponsor that sent us a bunch, and then we had viewers who sent us a bunch. So it just started. We had like 4 of them. Remember, we had like 4 helmets in the studio, and then people like, well, you need a Houston helmet. And look, we've got BYU fans, Dave.
You know how that is.
I mean, look, they almost decked out the studio in blue and white. Yeah, they sent us several different helmets.
We have Vanderbilt because Diego Pavia said they're going to run the world this year in college football. They're not losing a game.
Well, I was watching this last segment, and I was staring at your shoulder, and I'm like, I think that's a Vanderbilt helmet, and I couldn't figure out why it is so perfectly placed in the middle of your show.
We rotate them around.
It's an algorithm. It's a helmet algorithm. What's going on, and what is the mood today? There's been some clarity now, and I know we'll get into the quarterbacks that are not going to try to fight to be QB1, but what's the mood right now in Provo?
You know, this might sound strange, but under the circumstances, this is really a good day for both Jake and BYU. It's been sitting around for a couple of months for BYU, for Jake a little longer. We get some closure with the case being thrown out. He's got some honor code issues and suspensions that if he stays, he'll have to face for his behavior that he agreed to live. So we all get that. But it gives him an opportunity now to jump someplace else relatively clean, you know, without taking that case with him. So that's good for him. I've been in contact with him. This is a good day for him in a set of not great circumstances. And for Kalani and the Cougars, you know, the Big 12 meetings are coming up, and now they don't have to take this story down there for the most part. The story can be who's going to be your quarterback and move forward with the candidates there. But as you can imagine, this is sitting over the team and their individual workouts and player-led practices as to whether or not Jake's even going to be there, if he even should be there. And now there's some closure. So I think Kalani will take a deep breath and go, I just want to know what I got, as opposed to it might be this, it might be that, it might be 3 games, it might be 7 games. And now everyone just knows. And for the last day of June, it's better than finding out on the first day of July, I think is the attitude around here.
I've seen reports that expect him to go to someplace significant. Dave, does he really know about where he's going now, even though it hasn't been released yet?
He told me that he said he's going to be fine and that his agent's working some places. He didn't give me names, but we've heard, Northwestern, maybe even Notre Dame is out there on social media. I don't know what their quarterback situation's like. He wants to play right now, and he couldn't call it a redshirt year, right? And go somewhere and spend time to learn the offense for one last blast because he's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. With the 7-game suspension here, he just said it's too many games to salvage a season, so he's got to go somewhere if he wants to have a senior year. A lot of teams have their quarterbacks, right, because they're heading to camp here in a few weeks. But there are a few out there, and so yeah, a couple of those names where you're like, oh, wow, that would be great for him. I hope he has a great landing spot and an opportunity to do what he wants to do.
Forgive my ignorance, but does he need a waiver now? Or I know the expectation, I mean, he's graduated, right? But is that just all he needed and boom, he's free and clear and he can go whenever, wherever?
If you Google what the rule is, it comes up and says, if you've graduated, you have the freedom to go whenever you want into the portal. Yeah. And I believe that's the case. There's been some activity on social media saying, well, he'll still need a waiver and all of this.
That's what we got. Yeah.
If he does, BYU will cooperate and help him find a spot, as they've done many times before with kids that may have run into trouble here. But Kalani is so good about helping them land somewhere that's a better fit for them. And so, man, I've always told my kids, when you have your degree, you have freedoms. And even in college football, if you have your degree, there are different rules to reward you, and this might apply to Jake and give him a chance to have one more run somewhere.
So there are 3 quarterbacks in the QB room, and we've looked at and talked about all of them. What are your thoughts about how that might play out?
They got some talented kids. Jake may not be the best quarterback. In fact, I've been told he's not the best quarterback in the quarterback room skill-wise. He's just the only one that went 11-2 last year. and you just can't attach that to a kid who didn't go 11-2 last year. And he was going to be the starter. So, it's a blow no matter what, no matter how you dress it up. But with him gone, then you look at Trayson Bourget from Western Michigan, who has some starts there. McKay Hillstead, who you've been talking about, has some starts at Utah State. And then Bear Bachmeier, the only college experience he has is he went through spring drills at Stanford before they fired their coach, and he came up here in May. I've been told by guys who are working with them that Bachmeier's the real deal, might be the best quarterback in the room, bar none, as far as pocket presence, footing, throwing, reading. He just doesn't have any experience. And we saw in the Big 12 last year when teams threw out freshmen, it just didn't go very well. And so I think Kalani would be hesitant unless he's heads and shoulders above the other two. So I think in theory it's a Bourget, Hillstead. Hillstead's smaller and faster. Bourget's bigger and built to take a few more hits. They can both throw. To BYU's advantage, they both were on the team last year and ran practices every day. So they've each had plenty of time in the playbook. But they just didn't expect to be on the last day of June, knowing that July is now a turbo month. And then August, and they have 3 months. I got an article coming out tonight in the Deseret News called "The 3 Months to Boulder," like a movie title. They've got literally 3 months to get ready for the Big 12 opener at the end of September in Boulder. And from some of the quarterbacks I've talked to that played, they think 3 months is enough time when you're surrounded by a pretty good team to be ready to run the offense. We'll see. It's just not a scenario that Kalani dreamed that he was going to face during spring drills.
That's got to be the thing that makes them nervous and confident equally, is that, okay, nervous because you got to do this now and you didn't expect to, but confident in that the team that they built around Jake Retzlaff was really good. They were 11-2 last year. They've added to that. They haven't taken huge. I mean, I know there's guys like Tyler Batty and guys you can't really just, snap your fingers and get that kind of a motor, but they didn't have any like massive losses. It looked like they were going to be able to kind of jump ahead. Now they're kind of stuck wondering, aren't they? At least for a little bit.
It's a different BYU program now. Back in the glory years of the quarterback, we'll call it, Ty Detmer or Robbie Bosco or Steve Young. By the way, Steve Young's worst loss is still against Baylor, and he talks about it frequently. But those were the days when the quarterback had to throw for 405 touchdowns because the defense was going to give up 30 points. And now, especially last year and again this year, Kalani has built this team that the quarterback just needs to go not lose the game, manage the game. And they had the number one defense in the Big 12 last year. They had 21 interceptions, which is an insane number. They had arguably the best kicker in the Big 12, maybe the country. He made his last 16 field goals. They've got a punt returner who's getting, All-American props coming in. Receivers are back. LJ Martin's back healthy at running back. So they're built to have Jake come in and just manage the offense and maybe even be better than they were last year. So now a new guy has to come in, and if he can just do that, in years past, the quarterback had to go win the game. And this year, as we saw even last year, the quarterback really has to just not lose the game. And now BYU got plenty of breaks last year. We all get that. And they stayed healthy, and that can turn quickly. But when those things align and everyone just does their thing, the two toughest games that Retzlaff had last year was the Kansas game that they lost here and at Arizona State, where he may have had his worst half of the season. And then in that bowl game, he threw a couple of picks, maybe had his worst game of the year in its entirety, and they won 36-14 against the nationally ranked Colorado team with some superstars. So that core is back. The quarterback's going to be different. But as you mentioned, this is a different BYU team now that's not built around the quarterback being the savior.
So despite this, they don't lose momentum, because coming off 11-2 and hammering Colorado, and it seemed like Paul mentioned, and had a lot coming back and they added a lot. Does this in any way deflate the tire at all?
I think it's been deflating.
Okay.
This the issue hanging over it has been what's the deflating thing. I talked to Chase Roberts, who talked to Keanu Tanavasa, their Utah transfer that's going to anchor that defensive line. And it's a pretty tight-knit bunch. The wild card here was Jake and his off-the-field issue and how he handled it with the team, how he didn't handle it with the team. That became the story of the offseason, and now that story is gone. And so I think it's now a relief. And a lot of folks around here don't believe is it going to cost them 2 or 3 wins over the course of the season? Maybe, because experience seems to be that valuable. But where does that put them? 8-4? Is that still a good year? 9-3? The rest of this team's built to do what they did last year. The schedule is a little more friendly than it was a year ago. I think they're sky high with optimism. Where it's going to hurt them, I believe, is when the AP poll comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I think they finished 13th with Jake back. They're probably going to be right around 15, maybe 16. And now they probably won't even be in it. And that just makes a long climb for everyone outside the top 25 to make it up inside the top 12. And so that's probably the biggest difference, Retzlaff here versus Retzlaff being gone, that'll affect the team, which could affect them all year long as they try to climb up and get to the college football playoff. They were close last year, and they figured they would get back there this year. And now now there's a question mark there, which I think you bring up, which is true. It's like, what does it do to their momentum? All but one guy who isn't part of this issue. Those guys are a pretty tight-knit bunch, and they're hungry, and they know how close they were, and they're really good. And so again, if Jake's replacement can manage or even exceed expectation a little bit, they're going to be tough to beat.
What would you say is the transfer that's not a quarterback on the offense that's most likely to take the pressure off of whoever it is?
They didn't add a whole lot on the offense as far as skill guys. But Andrew Gentry, the transfer from Michigan on the offensive line, I think at left tackle, he's 6'7", 315. He's a great piece. They've been able to now put left tackles in the NFL the last 3 or 4 drafts, and if not drafted or at least in with chance to make teams. And so now that's an attractive spot, that left tackle spot. And Gentry had a couple years at Michigan, chose Harbaugh over Sataki a few years ago. Harbaugh leaves. He went another year there and wanted to come home. And Sataki was still here, and they had a relationship. And I think on that offensive line, talking about what could help that new quarterback, guys like Gentry will be that kind of a guy. Defensively, they didn't add a lot of guys either, right? Just more depth. Tanavasa coming down from Utah. That's huge. Jay Hill thinks he might be one of the better defensive linemen in the country when it's all said and done this season. They lost the 4 guys up front last year, so that was a priority. They have depth, and a lot of guys played last year, but you need some superstars, and they believe Tanavasa, who will be there in Texas at the football meetings. You'll have a chance to visit with him. He's huge, and he's such an awesome kid. You can't help but pull for those kinds of guys. And he's going to be he probably is their biggest addition team-wide from this last season that'll help them coming up here in a few weeks, few months.
Last thing, Dave, and appreciate your time and a lot of great insight, no question, and knowledge is that BYU has probably and Arizona State had their run, but it seems like BYU has benefited the most. Would you agree, from those who joined the Big 12 in this 8 of the 16 teams that are new?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you see it in the depth, which they didn't have the first year, and they lost the last 5 games. They got run down, hurt, banged up, and mowed over. Jay Hill's been a huge addition for them, which has helped to rebuild their defense. And depth's always a thing. They were independent for 12 years, but they always had the goal of being in a Power 4 conference. So they tried to build that way. But in a recruiting battle between I can go to the Rose Bowl or I can go to the Independence Bowl, the Rose Bowl would win. And they lost a lot of guys. They're in a recruiting haul around here, the likes they've never seen before. The 5-star kid Ryder Lyons committing, a 4-star tight end Brock Harris. Picking BYU, McKay Matz, another 4-star, and they're picking BYU over Oregon in all 3 of those cases, or Michigan, or Georgia, or Texas, and especially over Utah, which is the real battle here in the Beehive State for recruits. And so Kalani is right in the middle of maybe his best recruiting haul for 2026 in program history, and it comes with Retzlaff right in the middle of it. Heading to the transfer portal and moving out after an 11-2 season. So things are actually pretty good here, and building for the future. It's just this Retzlaff thing has been a pain in the rear for both, and now that pain's subsiding and the true pains can come on opening day. One thing that these quarterbacks have, I think, an advantage of. Portland State's the first game on August 30th. Now, initially it was like, why would you play an FCS team? Waste a Saturday type thing. But now that seems like a perfect placement.
Yep, no question.
Stanford comes in, and they're not the Stanford they used to be. That's a little tougher game for the new guy. Then they have a bye. We thought a 3rd-week bye is like, how does that help? But now it's perfect. Then they go to East Carolina, first road trip for whoever the new kid is, and then to Colorado. So all of a sudden, the early part of the season really kind of shapes up for a kid who's gonna cut his teeth on the field.
Do you think, David, Retzlaff will make a decision by the end of the week on where he's going? You do? Yeah.
I think it's going to be super quick because where he's going, that program wants to know who their quarterback's going to be. And and now that today is done, I think he needed that case to be thrown out just so that doesn't go with him. And I would think it'd be pretty quick. He said he wasn't sure of the timeline, but I think things have picked up the pace after this morning's when the judge signed off and threw the thing out. A lot of people scratching their head around here, but the honor code's a real thing at BYU. And here's a starting quarterback coming off an 11-2 season with a chance to maybe go to the playoff and all those visions of grandeur. But there's an honor code here, and if you don't live it or try to live it, it's a pretty forgiving place if you work through your issues. But if you keep them to yourself and let them come out on SportsCenter, it just makes it a much harder thing. And I think Jake has found that out.
What a great segment, Dave. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
You got it, guys. See you soon.
Dave McCann with us. Perfect. Not sure we could have had anybody better to kind of summarize a lot of from today, leading up to today, the future, and even the conversations that he's had with others in the program, including with Jake Retzlaff, who now tries to find a new home. When we come back in the 4 o'clock hour, Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, which I had a box at my front door. I don't know if I put them in my laptop bag or not. The high school football and college football magazine for the state of Texas. He will join us on Texas State and more. And this is 365 Sports. We'll take you up until 6. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. Great amenities, great views. Game day, of course, it's rocking. But outside of that, the Baylor Club is a place to go get great food. Lunch, dinner, have business meetings, symposiums, speakers, banquets, weddings, rehearsal dinners, all of the above. Whatever would you need a big room to fill, and they got a way to partition certain rooms so it doesn't have to be a big, huge room with only a few hundred people there, or maybe even 50 or 100 people there. But you want the sights, the scenes. It's beautiful. And the food is great because their top chefs make sure that food is good. And if they have something new, they have tastings for you, the members, to, okay, I kind of like this. I can't wait for it to be on the menu. Special events all the time. They've had Father's Day, 4th of July coming up this weekend on Friday. So always celebrating events and also with the great food and the amenities if you have something you want to host yourself. The Baylor Club, memberships available. Tell them that you were sent by 365 Sports.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports as we head into this 4 o'clock hour. Paul's top 5 and Andrew Valade has already put up one of the 2 polls. We'll have the final results on that today in the end of the 5 o'clock hour. Brando tomorrow. Tim Brando locked in as one of our guests tomorrow. So the teams released, and you heard Dave McCann mention that each team released their attendees who will be a part of the Big 12 Media Days a week from tomorrow, and broken into 2 days, Tuesday and also Wednesday. There's the list right there with Arizona, Arizona State, Baylor, and also BYU. BYU, you know Retzlaff would have been a part of that. That's not the case. Levitt, Sawyer Robertson, Fafita is very quarterback heavy. It will always be normally quarterback heavy no matter conference we're talking about.
Well, West Virginia's, the only schools that aren't bringing their quarterback are West Virginia, Oklahoma State, who really, if Mike Gundy could figure out a way not to go there, he wouldn't. Houston.
And Utah. Well, I mean, BYU, I mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, now BYU. But yeah, so UCF is not either because they don't know who's going to be. So, but everybody else is bringing the quarterback.
It's a good-looking graphic there. Garrett, did you work on that all day?
No, that was Big 12.
Iowa State, Craig, with Rocco Beck, that makes sense. Jalen Daniels makes sense. Avery Johnson, and as Paul mentioned, no quarterback from Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of depends on where we want to look. I mean, you got 16 teams, so there's a lot of different ways that you could look at this list. I mean, it's not the biggest, most important thing in the world, but it is those players that have been chosen to go represent your school for a day. So I think it's notable to see who teams bring. It's notable when there's not a starting quarterback in some cases, like with the UCF, where there's clearly still very much a battle going on, or the obvious there with BYU. Take a look at, just a couple of them, I guess. I'm trying to think of something that would stand out. But again, you've got 16 teams, so it's kind of hard to go one by one. If we did it that way, we could get really into the minutia. I think the biggest thing that pops off is just that there's so many players compared to most years. There's some teams that are bringing, in Baylor's case, 6 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, you're bringing 3 and 4 guys. Baylor's bringing 6. BYU's bringing 5. Arizona State's bringing 6. Iowa State's bringing 5, K-State's bringing 5, Texas Tech's bringing 6, Arizona's bringing 6. So there's going to be a lot of players there. I mean, that's a bigger number than normally any team brings, and you're going to have multiple teams with 6 guys there. So that'll be great for interview opportunities. It's a great thing for media content, and that's one thing that just jumps out to me.
Colorado's bringing both their quarterbacks.
I saw that.
Yeah, that is notable. Salter and Lewis, so there's no separation there. If you were hoping that was going to tip their hand one way or the other, bringing both the freshman star and the Liberty transfer there. So, some teams with no quarterbacks, one team with 2 quarterbacks there in the case of the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders. And I don't know what kind of shape he's in to be at Media Days in a couple weeks, seeing as how he's been kind of away now, I guess, from the team. I don't know where that stands as of this moment. I know it wasn't a crisis or an emergency, and they were all understanding that. But I think Deion's gonna be interesting to hear him talk, especially in a post-Shador, Travis Hunter, Shiloh world. But not tipping his hand as far as the quarterbacks go with this list right here. Also bringing a kicker, which I know they have a notable kicker, but that's not somebody that you typically see on a list like this very often, if ever. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a kicker, maybe once or twice in all of the years of doing this. Oklahoma State's only bringing 3 guys. So some teams are bringing 6. They're bringing 3, Josh Ford, Amon Oates, and Cam Smith. Outside of that, it was depending on what team we're really looking at. But West Virginia, no quarterback. I think y'all mentioned that. excited to see Devin Dampier out there for Utah.
Yep.
Just him kind of representing them. But, wherever you want to go with this, we can go.
Garrett, put up Tech and whoever else is on that slide. We can go over those schools as well. TCU, we mentioned the quarterback with Hoover. Texas Tech with Baron Morton, the quarterback. Douglas, a really nice, solid wide receiver. Rodriguez, a hell of a linebacker. And then Cole Wisniewski, defensive back. And, of course, they're bringing and every coach, the Dion thing will be interesting, as Craig, you mentioned. What happens is they come walking in on the day that they're a part of it, Tuesday or Wednesday, and eventually they spread out. And there's a little mini this and mini that, and then there's also the big press conference with the coach on top of a big monstrous stage.
I think anybody watching a show like this pretty much knows how media days operate. I mean, it's a car wash. You've got your internet sites, and you've got your television stations, and you've got your radio stations, and your YouTube channels, and your whoever's, and they're kind of broken up, and they take the guys through a car wash where, like UCF, at 8 a.m., they're doing Radio Row, and then at 10 o'clock, they're doing website stuff, and then at 12 they're doing lunch, and at 2 they're doing promos for Big 12 commercial. It's that kind of a thing. So it's a full day of work. You just rotate through stations basically of different media marketing obligations, and we'll have an opportunity to talk to a lot of different people, including the coaches, and I'm looking forward to that. But there will be no shortage of people to choose from, definitely based on this list. I guess the one thing to put up there for people is the order. So Tuesday, this is the thing. You're going to have 8 schools. There's going to be like 50 players there on both days because of the 8 schools each day. And then
wasn't that the case last year?
But they're not all bringing 6 guys.
No. That's why I think some schools said, hey, we have to average this out to 4.5 players, so you can only bring 3.
But Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Texas Tech will all be on day number 1. And then on Wednesday, day number 2, Arizona, Colorado, Houston, Kansas, Oklahoma State, TCU, Utah, and West Virginia. So that's how they've split them up. I'm not sure if there's any exact science to that or not, but that's how they will be broken up. So we'll get to hear from Tech on day 1, and they're obviously a big story. K-State, Iowa State, BYU obviously with a lot of headlines right now. Baylor is one of those teams along with Arizona State. So a lot of the contenders, if you will, like quote unquote contenders, are going to be on that first day. And then I think in the case of day 2, contenders wise, TCU maybe. And that's like, I mean, unless you want to you're somebody that throws Kansas in that mix or someone like that. But yeah, I think a lot of the teams that you expect to be the best teams are going to be primarily on day 1. But we'll see if day 2 doesn't have more interesting stories, perhaps.
All right.
But hey, we don't get to say who the contenders are anymore because
we're not allowed to.
We suck at it.
Well, we do. The trend and analytics and metrics, we suck at it. One other note to Big 12, and there's been all these little sometimes money like PayPal and Venmo, which we discussed last week. The Big 12 is also partnering with Microsoft 365 and bringing in AI. They will be distributing all of the information. I get what this is. I sometimes have called it A1, and I've been like, that's a steak sauce. But I am so blown away how this works.
You know that
I am. It doesn't mean it's always right.
Our current Secretary of Education called it A1 in 5 different things before somebody corrected her. So at least you admit it. But yes. So yeah, they've been using it. Now they expand it. Hopefully this is a big chunk of money for the Big 12 that they can distribute along. But and I'm sure it is. Microsoft's not poor. But yeah, they're powered the tablets and everything. They had a demo last year that I wanted to do, but I never got around to it. So maybe I'll get to do it this year to see, how they work. And, they'll show you how in real time they work on the
tablet was unveiled last summer, and Joey McGuire even talked about how they used it, I think, I don't know where it was, but it doesn't show anything about any kind of money, but I would think that this is not just because they get a lot of equipment that they're going to get some scratch out of this too.
Because I don't really think it's that kind of a deal. I think it's a mutual, hey, you use our technology and you use our technology. And it's not like some naming rights deal or some massive payday. It's just a partnership, and there's one announcement like this, I feel like every year. So it's cool, but I don't think it's like the biggest deal in the world by any means.
All right. So there we are with AI being a part of the broadcast. And here's the of the media days. What was the past is you would have transcripts, or you'd have a bunch of interns just like pecking away at whatever was said by a head coach, especially a head coach. But there were little mini recorders all over the place. I guess they still do that. They feed AI, and eventually it spits back out. Great for newspapers, great for websites, and good for us if we're looking for a specific comment at a certain time when a player is on the podium. When we come back, Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, on Texas State joining the Pac-12 and how and when all this began. This is 365 Sports.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560, or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC. An equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
365 Sports, Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoke. Garrett Ross is running the mothership today, and Andrew Valade is also heavily involved with what he does by shoving all the content out on various parts of social media. Mike Craven, join us, Garrett. Here we go. All right. Mike, thanks for your time. Texas State, the Pac-12, they voted to spend the $5 million, and now they've already been accepted by the Pac-12. When did this push really start for Texas State that this could be possible?
Well, I think the conversation started last summer as the Pac-12 kind of dissolved and then added some Mountain West teams. And Texas State had conversations with the Mountain West. I believe they had conversations with the Americans. And then as the Pac-12 kind of started building itself, putting itself back together again and needed an extra team, I think Texas State, being in the market that they're in, was really enticing. And so I think it was a year-long effort, kind of weighing the options, playing them against each other. And for the Bobcats, I think it was a no-brainer move.
What does this conference enable them to maybe do long-term that some of the other ones wouldn't?
I think it's just a name brand recognition. They're going to be playing against Boise State. They're going to be playing against Washington State and Oregon State. They're going to have Gonzaga come to San Marcos to play basketball. since they've moved away from the Southwest Texas State branding, like their whole mission was to get more global within the state and then more national outside of it. And when Kelly Damphouse, the current university president, was hired, he was given 6 bullet points. And the first one was to make the brand more national, and the last one was to fix athletics, and that really meant fix football. And he told me, if I could fix football, I can fix the first one, right? If our football program can become respectable and can be on the biggest stages, that will make us more national. That's been 2.5 years now, and I think they've achieved that. And we've seen how much they're talking. I mean, we're talking about it right now. We don't talk much Texas State on these kind of podcasts. And so I think that was their mission, was to get a better brand, to get a bigger brand, and the Pac-12 and the schools within it allow them to do that.
What do you think about the Pac-12 now being in Texas? Now, Mike, it's not, no matter how many faithful want to spin it on Twitter as it's still where it was. It's not, and that's okay. But what do you think of what Oregon State, Washington State have been able to put together and now having that Texas presence as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's an interesting one, right? UTEP's moving to the Mountain West, Texas State now in the Pac-12. Like in next year's magazine, we're going to have 7 of the 10 conferences like represented within our state between the 13 programs. So, when this magazine was started, they were pretty much all in the Southwest Conference, and now, we're spread out to 7 different conferences. I think for Texas State getting into the Pac-12, again, it's just national brand recognition. And it just sets the table for them to grow bigger and bigger. It's such a big university that I think their aspirations were beyond the Sun Belt. And now we'll see if they're able to hit the ground running, because that's my biggest question, right? It's like, of course, you're going to take the extra money. I think now the Pac-12 is probably in the argument to be the best G5. I guess now it'll be G6. It'll be Power 4 and G6. I have to change the way I say that. It's probably going to be, in that conversation with the American as the best, G6 conference. And so if you're Texas State, you see it as, well, if we can start winning that conference, we're going to go to the college football playoff. And I talked to Don Coryell, their AD today, and he said, he didn't mix words. Like, that is their goal. And they think getting into that conference gets them closer to doing it.
Would they be doing this, and would this all be happening if G.J. Kinney was not their football coach?
I don't think so. Well, I mean, maybe if a different coach had come in and had the same level of success, but you beat a Baylor, you win 8 games back to back. He's just a young, hip, cool guy. I think the recruiting's been really good. It's allowed the boosters and the donors and the students to rally behind the football team in a way that they hadn't before. I joked with those guys today, like Texas State always won the tailgate. It was just a struggle to get those students inside the stadium. Kinney, along with Damphouse and Coryell, have really had a groundswell of support. You go to a Texas State game now, and it's unrecognizable from the atmosphere that it was 5 years ago. And that's a credit to all of them, including Coach Kinney, for sure.
What has it meant, you think? It is now something that's kind of a must-see deal. What does it mean to the campus? How much of this rubs off on what's going on in San Marcos?
I would imagine a lot. They're having more and more students. They have over 40,000 students there. That's only trailing A&M, Texas, Houston, and North Texas. Like, they're the 5th biggest university in this state. They're a big public school right in the middle of 2 growing metropolises in Austin and San Antonio. And I'm lucky. I get to go to all these campuses, watch football games. Like, Texas State's the coolest campus. Like, Texas State is the best college town in the state. And I think it's going to allow more and more people to understand that, from the square to the river running around it. But, as we know, I remember after TCU made that run in the national championship, their admissions jumped. After SMU's run last year, admissions jumped. Like, football and athletics, but football specifically, is the front porch of the university, is the neon sign that gets people in there. And a lot of us, when we went to college, one of the reasons we picked our colleges was to go have an experience and to go to games on Saturday and to enjoy that community. The bigger the games, the more that's true. And I think for Texas State, they're gonna see more and more of the benefit of that when they're playing against helmets that have national brand recognition, and that the students have played on the video game and grown up watching. That's not really true with Troy and ULM, but I think it is true with Boise State and Washington State and some of the others.
Do you think this gives them any kind of recruiting advantage when it comes to recruiting against those teams, seeing as now they can say they're in Texas?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they're already starting to see some recruiting gains over this last week or two on some commits that maybe they didn't think that they were going to get before, because they've been able to, kind of behind the scenes be like, hey, we're about to be a Pac-12 program. We're about to be a Pac-12 program. And I agree that the Pac-12 isn't what it was 5 years ago, but it's still better than where they were. And I think it gives them the ability to argue that they're in the fifth best conference in the country. I mean, I don't know if I would buy the argument, but I think the argument's there to be made, that now they are in the best conference of any other G5 program in this state. If you can go win the Pac-12, you're going to be in the CFP. I'm not sure that was true in the Sun Belt. And so that's got to help recruiting. And, as much as college football's changed, this is still about talent acquisition. And the more you can, acquire, the easier it is. And, I think Kenny's a good recruiter. He's a good evaluator. And now he doesn't have to work against his conference and the money. They're going to have more money to go recruit. And in the rev share world, that's going to matter as well.
Mike, I don't know. Kind of trying to figure out how to ask this question. UTSA got brought up in these conversations, and clearly it became a money thing as much as anything for them. Do you think there's some envy that they see Texas State joining the Pac, or do they know that, hey, they're in a good spot, they had to make the choice they had to make, and the future is bright? Like, how do you kind of feel like they're taking this down in San Antonio?
Well, I think that's a great question. They don't have a $24 million check to pay to get out of the American, right? Like getting $5 million to get out of the Sun Belt different than $24 million to get out of the American. Even if you're going to make more money in the Pac-12, you're not going to make up that difference. I think the way it impacts UTSA is just in recruiting. They've been able to kind of little brother Texas State in that way on the recruiting trail. One, because Jeff Traylor's just established a winner. And so until GJ has done that, now maybe they're equals in terms of on the field thing, especially after Texas State blew them out last year. But I think UTSA has been able to recruit to the conference. We're the American Conference. We're with Tulane. We're with Memphis. If we win here, we're the best G5 conference. Well, with the Pac-12 putting itself together and then including the team, your rival, right down I-35, maybe that recruiting pitch isn't as easy to sell. So I'm not sure if the university itself feels like, this move is that gigantic for Texas State, compared to UTSA. But I would imagine Jeff Traylor's job is a little bit harder on the recruiting trail than it was last week.
You mentioned the money. I was going to ask you about the money. Is this an extra $1 million or $2 million from what they were making, or more than that at the Sun Belt?
I think it's about triple, if not more, than what they were making in the Sun Belt. In the Sun Belt, the media rights, the Sun Belt's a great conference. We all love the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt, they have regionality. A lot of those schools really care about football, and they fill their stadiums. I love the Sun Belt, but the media rights deal is $2 million a year. Even if they don't get a full share right away in the Pac-12, and there's still kind of some ambiguity on what that is. I had them both on a podcast today, and they were kind of non-committal on kind of if they're getting a full share and when that would kick in. But even if they get mostly a partial share and it's $6 to $8 million a year, even with the added travel budget, that's still a double or triple amount. And in the revenue share world, that's a starting quarterback. That's a backcourt basketball. That's keeping GJ Kinney from taking another job if possible, and get him in a contract like the one Jeff Traylor has at UTSA. And so I think the money and the brand recognition just made this to where, it's something that Texas State couldn't refuse, and something that I think they're very fortunate to be part of. They were right team, right time.
I saw a note from you earlier today. You had released, Dave Campbell's had released the all-Texas college football team, and, a lot of the schools you'd expect to have a chunk or more or on it. We haven't really gone over the team, but I did look at it. It was very kind of fun to watch. But you made the comment, and I did see this, that a lot of schools were putting that information out because they were excited about being a part of it. And that wasn't the case if you would have done that when you arrived. When was it? A couple of 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here and toot my horn or anything. I think Dave Campbell has done a good job of positioning itself more into the college world. On my end, I kind of work against my brand a little bit. We're such, the kings of high school football, and everybody knows us for that. And that's awesome. That's great. That's a credit to everybody at that company for the last 60 to 65 years. But I do think it's easy to forget that we do a lot of college stuff, and we have done a lot of college stuff, before me, David Oven and, Shahan, and, it didn't start with me at all. But it's just getting the SIDs and getting those programs to kind of, pub that stuff for you. It's free marketing and you can't replace it. And it's just a relationship business, as you guys know. And it's just building those relationships across the state as much as possible.
Well, this all Texas team that you guys did, Mike, this clearly took a lot of work because there's a lot of talent you have to sift through. Whenever I've had to vote for an all whatever team, I do spend a larger amount of time on the phone with SIDs or any coaches I may know to help me, tell me why this guy's better than this guy. What's your process for building this team?
Yeah, it is the most stressful part of doing the magazine, in my opinion. And I guess the way I do it is I put the for sure's on there first. I kind of go through each position and I'm like, who has to be on there, right? Like Keaton Thomas, Josh Cameron, who has to be there? And then I just see what the holes are left. Some positions are easier than others. I would say offensive line is probably the toughest because it's unless you're an expert, an offensive line coach or something, who the hell knows? You can trust the PFF numbers if you want to, but that's the one I probably rely on the coaches the most. The problem is that everybody in the state's in the running, and so they're just lobbying for their own guys and lobbying against their rivals' guys, and so it's hard. It's hard to take the coach's opinion all that seriously on this kind of stuff, for obvious reasons. So I guess I just try to identify the folks that I think are guaranteed to be on the list that you can't argue against, and then it just kind of gets tough as you go, through the two deep. I'm just lucky because we're doing the magazine at the same time. I'm able to go to all these places, talk to the coaches, and you just kind of get a feel for who they're talking about in those kind of terms, and then you just try to do the best you can. But it's a thankless day. I mean, I've gotten more texts today from coaches being upset with me than have been happy.
That's always the case. That is always the case. What you need to do is I do this when I do an all high school team. All right, you can put so-and-so on the team, who you taking off. Make the coach replace somebody that you have on that team with his player and see if he'll maybe be able to do that.
That would be pretty bold to be okay, take off Le'Veon Moss. Go ahead, coach. You tell me why your guy's better, and then see if he does that. Mike, sometimes that would go well. Sometimes it probably wouldn't.
Yeah, they either block you, hang up on you, or cuss you out, but at least you'd get a good reaction from them. But that's kind of one of the rules because you have a team, whether there's 2 or 3 running backs or 1 or whatever it is, 4 wide receivers, and it's easy to go, well, what about, I did see a note about Baylor's very talented Trigg, the tight end. Well, what about him? Well, there's only one tight end. So you got to make a decision that not everybody makes the team.
Yeah. And then for us as well, it's we're trying to be somewhat inclusive. We want to have, at least a member from every single program on there because we try to cover it in a similar way we cover high school where it's is the 2A quarterback better than the 6A quarterback? Probably not. But if they're more valuable to their football team, then maybe they make the Dave Campbell's All-Texas team in a way that the 6A quarterback doesn't. And so tight end's tough because it's got the fewest people. I get 10 offensive linemen. I get 6 linebackers. Quarterback, tight end, those are the toughest because there's only 2 of them. There's a first team and a second team. Quarterback was the one that I felt was impossible. And the one that I kind of texted around to coaches and were you're going to be mad at me, but I could only pick 2. So that's just what it is. It's just a really good year for quarterbacks, and trying to narrow it down to 2 before the season was very hard.
What are your thoughts with BYU now losing Jake Retzlaff because of the issue and the story behind that legally, and the lawsuit now has been dismissed, but he's gone. Well, he will be leaving. He will be signing somewhere else with somebody. He is a graduate. Who benefits, in your opinion, Mike, the most with Retzlaff leaving?
Well, in our state, it's TCU and Texas Tech. TCU's over under was set 6.5, which I thought was really, really low and kind of odd anyway. But now, I would imagine the BYU game was considered a loss by Vegas in that column. And so, I think TCU is one that benefits from that. And then also Texas Tech. If you look at their schedule, they have a couple tricky road games, Utah, Arizona State. But their toughest home game was BYU. And now, on paper at least, that seems like that would be a much more winnable game where, they should probably run the table and be undefeated at home. And if they can go, 500 on the road in conference or somehow come out on the top half of the ledger there on the road, they're probably going to be in Arlington. So For a team that was trying to win 9 or 10 games, if one of the toughest ones that you're playing against don't have a quarterback, all of a sudden you look at that one a little bit easier than you did before. And I still think it's kind of Arlington or bust for the Red Raiders this year.
Now that Texas State's done this, and it's somewhat with what Craig was also bringing up earlier, but Texas State, what UTSA have done, we know about the schools that are either in the SEC or elsewhere, the Big 12. Which school in Texas right now has to look around and go, man, where did all our furniture go? What do we need to do? Who needs to step up?
That's a really good question. I kind of, at the Power 4 level, it might be Baylor. TCU has the Metroplex. Now SMU is a Power 4 school, so that's one more team in a recruiting area that you really recruit at. That's going to crowd the market. I think SMU's got a top 20 high school recruiting class right now. Texas Tech and Cody Campbell are obviously very committed to spending and playing big boy football in the transfer portal and recruiting. And I say this all the time. It's not an original thought, but college football is as enjoyable as it is miserable for your rivals. And if you're Baylor, you're measuring yourself against TCU. You're measuring yourself against Texas Tech. TCU went to a national championship not too long ago. If Texas Tech has a big year here, I think you have to look around and go, are we getting passed up? We were probably, number 3 in the state 5 years ago. We've had so much success, more than a lot of these other programs. But if they're spending at this level and the world's about, revenue share wise, do we have the donors? Do we have the base that is willing to go play that game? And if not, it's going to be hard to keep up with SMU. It's going to be hard to keep up with Texas Tech. And those are two programs that you were far and away better than, for most of the last couple of decades. And so I guess I look at Baylor and their place in the pecking order in the hierarchy and just wonder if they're going to play ball like some of these other programs. Houston's another one, where it's you have the city of Houston. You've always been the sleeping giant. But you've had 30 years of apathy there with that fan base of just not playing against teams that you deem worthy enough, and you can just go to an Astros game or a Rockets game or a Texans game. Will Houston get the donors and the money to keep up with these other schools? So those are two programs that I kind of look at and I go okay, you're going to have to get at the table and decide if you really want to do this thing, because the teams around you clearly are.
Their NIL collective, GXG, has stepped up a great deal. Mac Rhodes was in studio with us, a week or two ago, and said that they are all in, but then you got to go do it and figure it out. And it seems like they're trying, but you're right, man. If you blink, you could be behind the curve really, really quickly. Mike, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mike Craven, Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. And I mentioned that magazine came out in the last days or 2 or 3. I don't know exactly if they're on the bookshelves or not, but I got a box when I got back from out of town yesterday evening, opening them up. It's a Sark picture on the front. Just says Sark with UT as the cover boy. And, of course, there's a high school football cover boy or group, is Salina High School football team. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Want to say thanks, first of all, to Alan Samuels' House of Travel, setting this up next week at the Airbnb that we'll be at when it comes to covering the Big 12 Media Days. They own and host a bunch of different businesses under their umbrella. But the car dealership in Ted T, 2024 Ram 2500, haul, tow, and conquer. Right now, it's yours at $44,364 at Alan Samuels in Waco. 2500 delivers. Need a deal? This is it. Trucks this tough don't sit around a lot or in the inventory for very long. Come by their location or go by their location at Highway 6 and Loop 340 in Waco. How about right now, the 2025 Dodge Durango RT Plus, all-wheel drive, $11,000 off MSRP. That's right, luxury deals right now for this particular car. Luxury meets muscle, 360 horsepower, and all-wheel drive, rugged, premium features, leather trim seats, heated and ventilated front row seats, captain's chairs, sunroof, intuitive Uconnect available too inside of that vehicle. One more to bring up. How about the Alan Samuels 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon? Jaw-dropping, $14,000 off MSRP, built for the wild with legendary 4x4 capability, looking up for differentials. They have that available as well. Off-road tires, rugged good looks, $14,500 off MSRP. Ted Teague, the general manager and CEO. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
You know, the last several months, and I was listening to a podcast, was it today or yesterday on the way home, coming in from Dallas, and they were discussing college football and the hierarchy. And, of course, it came up with Petiti at the Big Ten and then Greg Sankey in the SEC. If you were to ask college football fans, which one is Darth Vader, Paul, would they immediately say Greg Sankey?
Yes, they would. And
we have discussed it, too. We have taken we've made comments about things that he has said or quotes that we've read, whatever, and I don't back down from any of that. But he has been the one that's taken most of the shrapnel.
Yeah, because he talks the most. I'm trying to think of who in Star Wars I would make Tony Petiti for the argument of this, because he kind of operates a little bit more in the shadows. That would make him the
Sith Lord.
Yeah, I mean, like he's not like the Emperor, because the Emperor, like, you know, whether you agree with his politics or not, he gets ish done, right? I mean, he gets it done. Tony Petiti doesn't necessarily do that, but he finally did talk about his proposal, which for months, it finally got out there. It's been shredded for the last 2 months. People have been shredded, and you have heard nothing from Tony Petiti at all. And just comparing it to politics, this is a very political thing. If I introduced into Congress the Paul Catalina bill to give everybody free puppies, and everybody like shredded my free puppy plan, and then I just didn't say anything about it, it would be kind of weird, wouldn't it? Like, hey, you know, Senator Catalina, why did you why didn't you back off this? And I'm like, whatever, no comment. Like it's your bill. You put your name on it. And so he finally did talk to Joe Klatt on Joel's podcast today. And his reasoning is he wants to reduce the role of the committee. And the quote is, the alternative to this system is expanding the field and giving the committee more to do. If you go to 16 and you have 11 at large, you just added even more decision-making. The answer is, well, at that point, it gets to be easy because you'll cover everybody. No, because the more spots you put into the system, the more difficult decisions you're facing. Teams start to look more like, as we all have, a tough road loss. And he goes on and on and on. But I do think it's flawed to say, they have more to do. So we're just going to take it off and do their job for them before the season starts and thinks that's a justifiable situation that no one else is going to have a problem with. And just admit, just having two conferences who feel they're on the same level as you, or, whether that's true or not, they are on the same level as you as far as P4, A4 conferences, and having to admit out loud, we admit it, you guys are better.
I love that he's making the sacrifice of taking on more automatic teams no matter what their records look like, just to not harm the committee and make them have to announce and create some more conversations about the teams that need to fill out that bracket. Just out of the kindness of his heart. What a guy, Tony. He's not doing this for selfish reasons. He's doing this to help the committee have less work to do. What a guy. What a guy. Yeah, does that not sound like total BS when I say it that way?
It does. And I would say that it also, look, Fox is their major television partner. That's their major one. He's on this thing with Fox trying to explain it, and they're trying to create more TV for Fox. But, at the end of this, are you really going to alienate all these other people because, you're trying to get more games on your network and not anybody else?
Do you want more games or do you want more big games?
Yeah.
Well, the TV networks want more big games, and that's where we need to start every time we have these conversations. It's the TV networks that are pushing all these buttons and trying to really force things and or at the heart, I think, of a lot of these conversations. It's not Greg Sankey being selfish for the SEC. He's supposed to be because he's the commissioner of that league. But I do think that as the last couple of months have gone on, and I've been critical of Sankey, I don't think he always has the best interest in mind. I've questioned that he has the big picture of college football at the forefront of his mind. Now, it's not his job to have that. I get that. But when you hear from people go, no, I think he does. No, I think he does. Or I think that they do have the best interest in mind. Well, then I'm going to hold you to that and believe they have the best interest in mind, although they are going to have the best interest in mind beyond what they need to do for their own conferences. That's all understandable. But I do think Sankey's at least the one that's pushing the ball forward rather than just sitting and dribbling in place and allowing, lawsuits to pile up and nothing to ever be decided or to just, just not, get to the heart of the matter and make things happen. I feel like Sankey's the one that is doing that to some degree. So I commend him for that. I don't agree with everything that he said, but I am more open-minded about him than I was maybe a month ago based through all of these conversations. And I don't feel that Tony Petitti has the best interest of college football in mind. I don't believe that for a single second. I think Greg Sankey has more college football in mind than Tony Petitti does. I'll say that. And I think Tony Petitti's talking to a guy who works for Fox, who covers now the Big Ten on a primary basis. And I like Joel Klatt's stuff. I enjoy a lot of what he does, but he is very much a Big Ten leaner now, more so the last couple of years, and just what he covers than he was prior to that. That comes with the territory of his job. So it's a Fox guy talking to a main commissioner of the main Fox partner about how they can best benefit the Big Ten, basically. And so that's what I'm hearing it from. That's the filter that I'm hearing it through. And I don't know, I've listened to some of Klatt's playoff arguments, and after a while, it's just why do we not just have a Royal Rumble? Let's put all 16 teams in a league in a Royal Rumble, and then the 8 that spit out are the ones that then go play in a 3-round bracket. It all just gets very kind of convoluted and overly complicated, I think, even though it's simplistic to maybe explain. It's just playing games. Like, I see the value, but then I saw today, for example, they were talking about, who was it? Was talking about, I think might have been Joel Klatt or somebody talking about the third team in the Big 12 needs to play the third team in the ACC, and that's a play-in game. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, I get like where there could be some appeal to that, but now like they're having to jump through another hoop to get this team in, and now we're doing I think there's some value in some of the ideas that have been presented, but I also think that some of those people have gone so far down this road that it's become a little bit just kind of ridiculous. The overall presentation of what they would like the postseason to be, with all these various play-ins and seedings and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, I know I'm just kind of talking here, but the playoff makes my head hurt at this point. Like, I'm tired of talking about it until something gets done, but it was at least good to hear from the Big Ten side of things for the first time in a while. And yeah, I can imagine that Tony Petitti does love the 4 automatic qualifiers, because unlike the SEC, I don't think that necessarily every year they're going to have 4 that just justifiably are bigger and better and faster and stronger than the other conferences. I think the SEC can say that pretty much every single year. They can absolutely have 4. And I think there are most years where the Big Ten can say that, but I don't think it's necessarily every year. Don't just give me brand names. Give me last year, Ohio State and Oregon and
Penn
Indiana. State. Illinois is right on the cusp. Like, that was a year where that would have been the case, but that's not every year.
Well, and
Penn State, you didn't mention
Penn State.
that.
And look, the SEC had propaganda that they put out that you could, at least before you asked 1 or 2 questions, go, all right, well, historical this, like these teams have all done well. Well, the Big Ten's propaganda, if they would do the same thing, would include teams like Oregon and Washington, which weren't in their league. We don't even know how good they're going to be over the long haul in their league. Now, I would assume they're going to be fine, but you can't even put out propaganda saying those bogus metrics that the SEC had, because they're even more bogus based on the fact that you've got all these teams in there that haven't played more than 1 year in your conference. You don't know how USC is going to do over the long haul, or Washington's going to do over the long haul, having to, to play all these games on the East Coast that they never had to play before, and playing Penn State and doing all those things, and Ohio State and Michigan State, all these teams that you would. So yeah, they would get, I think they could make an argument for 3 most years, Craig, in this same thing. But I think that when you get to 4, a lot of times, if you went back the last, decade, like the SEC tried to do, you'd be like, okay, Ohio State, good. Penn State, good. Pick a random Michigan State, Wisconsin, somebody else that fills that 3rd spot, good. 4th spot,
well, yeah, but they've added Oregon.
No, but I mean, that's my point. You can't really say
that's
Oregon.
Right. That's why what happened in the past should not count today.
Exactly. That's why here's
one of the answers to what Klatt asked him. Now, one of the things that everyone immediately points out to when he was talking about Petitti, talking about games, et cetera, why do you get 4 automatic spots in the ACC and Big 12 only get 2? This is Petitti, we've made a decision about what we think is appropriate for us and what you should have on the at-large side. And it's based on historic strength and where we think programs are. Are there other ideas that we'd consider? I think we've been pretty open. We communicated that in the most recent meeting. Again, it's.
I think most people are tired of the playoff talk. I really do. I think there's fatigue when it comes to the playoff, and this is different in that it's at least nice to hear Petitti talk about it. And I could be wrong. If chat disagrees, and by all means, tell me no. We love the playoff format talk. I'd be curious to know. Actually, I feel online I get. Right now, at least, as the season's coming up, that people want less of that and more about, tell us when you get somewhere. Like later on in the year, when the deadline's approaching, tell us where you are with that. But one thing that he did say that was of interest, regardless of where you are on the whole playoff conversation, was we are not asking to be handed anything. We want to play tough play-in games. We want to create incentive for schools to schedule tougher non-conference games. Okay, the tough play-in games, again, there's some explanations of how you could do play-in games that are valid and they make a lot of sense, and I could see where they'd be really cool. Then there's some that get super convoluted. Like when we start having like the Big 12 play the ACC for a play-in for the third, I just feel like we're getting so into the weeds when it could be a lot simpler. But he says we want to play tough playing games, so that would apply with the play-ins that you would potentially do. But he also says we're not asked to be handed anything. That's exactly what you're doing.
4.
That is literally what you are doing. Is you are asking for there to be 4 automatic bursts, no matter what. No matter what, you are asking for that. So when you say we are not asking to be handed anything, that's literally what you are doing, is asking to be handed something. So that part, okay. We want to create incentive for schools to schedule tougher non-con games, and I get that. I get wanting the SEC to play the same number of conference games, but he's also saying this while he's talking about doing, to some degree, there's talk about a Big Ten SEC scheduling agreement, so that would benefit them. That would benefit the SEC, but if you lock that in, well, you get to play tougher non-conference games, and they get to play tougher non-conference games, and there's not going to be a lot for everybody else left to play, So that's a part that I'm very curious about moving forward, is any kind of a scheduling arrangement and just the lack of availability to schedule some of these big non-conference games, maybe outside of those two. And so the ACC, the Big 12, if that does in fact go through, that's going to be an uphill climb, I think, for them, especially as much as the strength of schedule is being pounded home. But I mean, we could dissect what he said in a lot of things, but that first part of we're not asking to be handed anything is just, I couldn't help but laugh, because that's what the entire thing about this is you asking to have 4 no matter what. Okay.
Yeah. The Onion headline would read, Big Ten says it's not asking for handout, demands $50.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like you said, okay, you're asking to be granted 4 teams without, like, just because of a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You're asking 4 teams before the season even starts. That you're getting 4. That's what you're asking for. That is the definition of a handout.
Yeah, and so like the rest of it you can parse through and like feel about how you want about making scheduling tougher, and there's some validity to that, or the playing games and the excitement. I'm not against every proposal, but I'll give you one example of, and I know we have to take a break, and we always acknowledge that when we then go and continue to talk. But in the interview, this is what I'm kind of talking about, the convoluted, from Ross Dellinger, and I'm going to watch the interview in full tonight. I only got to see part of it. In this interview, Joel Klatt brings up a proposed CFP format of a 4-4, 2.5, 2.5, 1-2 model, where the third-place Big 12 and ACC teams play one another, with the winner getting a third AQ. And Petiti said, send us whatever you want to send, and we'll look at it. The 5+11 or the 4-4, 2-5, 2-5, 1. So, yeah, I just feel like we're getting into that territory. It kind of is gimmicky to a large degree of side conferences playing games to get just a third bid. I think that's a bridge too far, in my opinion. But Scotty, he's open to anything, I guess.
I'm beyond tired of the college football playoff drama. The SEC commissioner is a whore.
No, I don't. I actually would not call him that. I think he's pretty selective. I think
I'm absolutely tired of it. From firefighter. Even the Big Ten is as much is a bully. They haven't gotten that reputation, but Petiti with the interview, thanks for bringing that one into the mix today, Paul. We
do have to go, but
yes,
let me close it with this.
Okay.
We were told, in regards to Fox and to the Big Ten and to Petiti, that this is what they need and what Fox wants, because they want that fourth guarantee. Now, I know I'm probably not breaking news for a lot of people, but that's the driver as much as anything in this, is Fox wants to get more juice out of its squeeze with the Big Ten. And so that's where a lot of this is coming from. It's coming directly from Fox. And so when you hear the Big Ten and talk about the 4 automatic qualifiers and all that, that's where a large part of this is coming from, based on other conversations that we've had. So I'm probably not saying anything new to most people, but just in case somebody new's listening, that's where you can direct some of your ire, is Fox and their need to get more out of the Big Ten. Even though they've won the last couple of national titles, they spent a lot of money, and so they're going to try to get as much as they possibly can.
Well, there's nothing wrong with wanting better product, no matter if you're the network or you're the conference or whatever. But, man, it does see, and a retired stockbroker said that was your closing argument, the Dragon. When we come back, we have discussed the Jake Retzlaff story. Dave McCann joined us earlier today. Matt Baiamonte, he'll join us next from KSL in Utah. His thoughts about it, looking at the quarterback room and more. And this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco with Dr. Rob Maxey and the partners who built the business, sustained success. I do remember the first time I went over there when I was told that it would be only $497 or less for an MRI. I'm like, how can you do that? I've had an MRI, and I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was over a decade ago that was in the like 1,500 range. There's $497. I've been inside their state-of-the-art technology, the imaging machine. It's phenomenal. I have never paid more than $497. Now that I'm on Medicare, I sometimes don't pay anything because that's part of the benefit of being old and paying into the system. But I've never paid, even before that, never paid more than $497. The average MRI is $1,100. State-of-the-art imaging machine, $497 or less every single time at idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Mike Baiamonte with KSL joins us, covers Utah with us on 365 Sports, and recommended by Mitch Harper, who we, of course, have had on the show before to discuss the BYU Cougars. And thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate your time. What's it been like the last 24 to 36 hours in Provo and in that Utah area with all the Cougars fans?
This has been some turbulent times for BYU. I mean, it was in a holding pattern for about 5 weeks. There was the initial civil lawsuit filed. Didn't hear even a response from Jake for weeks. Then Friday evening, you get the response. It tells a different story than the civil lawsuit alleged. And then a couple days later, it's a 7-game suspension reportedly, and then he's going to leave and transfer away. So it's been a turbulent few days, and I think a suspension that was always coming. but we never knew the amount of time. And certainly I think most fans thought, if he is not out for the whole season, he'll come back and play. And then kind of the bombshell was he's not going to serve that suspension. He's going to leave. That really changes things for BYU.
So of the three guys, how do you see the quarterback battle starting out, and how do you think it'll finish?
I think it will be a two-man race. I mean, it's going to be a three-man race, but I really think when you have Portland State as the opener, followed by Stanford, which is a mess, you could roll out anybody. I think you got to see what you have with the experienced guys that have actual starts in college football. So I think you'll see McKay Hillstead and Trayson Bourget. They'll get opportunities to win that job. And then depending on how they perform and what happens, I could see Bear Bachmeier making an appearance later in the year, kind of like what we saw in 2018, where Tanner Mangum was the starter, but eventually they gave way to Zach Wilson and he finished the year. It really just depends on how these quarterbacks perform. But whoever wins this job is set up for success. You look at the first 6 games of the schedule, there's not a game that they can't win in those first 6, regardless of who is the starting quarterback.
Yeah, Matthew, that was what I was going to ask you. How much does this change your opinion on the schedule outlook and just the overall 2025 season?
Oh, it certainly changes it. I mean, when you lose a senior quarterback, some of the best years BYU's had has been with a senior quarterback. Typically, when you have a senior quarterback at BYU who started multiple seasons, they're set up to have a really good year. So, like I was saying, some of the best years BYU's ever had. Senior quarterback Steve Sarkisian in '96, John Beck in 2006, Max Hall in 2009, and even that was kind of a step down from what you were expecting with the senior quarterback. But you had wins over Oklahoma and beat Utah at the end of the year. But it has to change your expectations, just because Jake last year showed in moments how clutch he could be, and to take that away and to go for someone, regardless of the three, whoever starts is not going to have played a full season of college football as a starting quarterback. There's a drop-off there. To me, I'd say you probably discount 2 wins from what you would have thought BYU could have done with Jake as a senior quarterback for BYU.
Are BYU fans pissed at Retzlaff or just disappointed?
No, I don't think pissed is the right word. I think the disappointment comes from wanting to leave and not serve the suspension. BYU, I think, has done an outstanding job, guys, of standing behind Jake. Once the lawsuit was filed, they could have suspended him immediately. They could have, kicked him off the team. The allegations were hard to read about 6 weeks ago, and they stuck behind him. They said, we're going to let this thing play out. And I think BYU fans, the same would apply. They've stuck behind him. The disappointment's going to come from, you broke the honor code. You know what you were signing up for. There's a consequence that comes with that, and you don't want to face the music. You just want to dip and leave. I think that's where the disappointment comes from. Is they still want to welcome him back. Like, there was never a scenario in which he was going to miss the full season, which is unprecedented for BYU standards. In the past, this type of allegation and this type of admittance of the sexual, misconduct's not the right word anymore because the case was dismissed, but the admittance of premarital sex, guys, in the past would have been, you're out for a semester, which would have been the whole season. So this is kind of new territory for BYU, willing to let someone not miss a full semester and play some of the season, and yet he doesn't want to do it. I think that's where the disappointment is, that BYU was behind this guy. They were the best option he had coming out of JUCO football, and yet you don't want to face the music and then come back for the most important part of the schedule, which is Texas Tech and Iowa State, like meaningful football games that he could have played in, and yet reportedly he doesn't want to do that. That's where the disappointment comes from.
Does he think it would have that he needed that full 12 games to put more eyes on him NFL wise? Because I would say that even with a fantastic season, he doesn't project to be a guy who's more than like a 6th or 7th round pick if he was just on fire.
That's kind of what I'm feeling, just based off reading his response from Friday night, responding to the original civil lawsuit. He talked about, being an NFL prospect. And the only way I think to read between the lines here is he feels like he's got to have a great year to maybe even become a draftable prospect or improve his draftability. To me, I don't see much of a difference between 6 games or 12 games, guys. The NFL draft, so much of it is based off projection and ability. Like this past NFL draft, we saw a guy go to the Saints high, Tyler Shuck, who he missed a lot of time, right? He was injured a lot, and yet he still had the aura of perception to get taken high. So if he could have, even in those 6 games, shown well and then tested well in the combine and in the pro day, then who knows what can happen. So, but clearly he feels like he needs a full season to improve his draft stock.
I've read. I didn't know much about Hillstead or Bear or even Bourguet, but let's go over these 3 guys. Hillstead is kind of like the engine that could. He's not the dynamic 6'2" type, like that's how a quarterback is built. But this guy's feisty. What about him?
You're right at my wheelhouse, by the way. I read that book every night to my 4-year-old son, so that's a great analogy. Hillstead is a smaller version of Retzlaff. He has an above-average arm, and he is a good enough athlete to make you pay in an RPO setting. He can tuck the ball and run, and that's why I think he'll be given the first opportunity to win this job in fall camp, is because he is as most plug-and-play as you have on the team. Whatever you wanted to do with Jake offensively, you can do with McKay Hillstead. He was an outstanding athlete, 3-year starter at Skyridge High School here in Utah. He's a good athlete. He's just really small. He's listed as 5'10". Maybe he's 5'10", could be an inch or two shorter than that. Then you have Bourguet, who is your more prototypical size quarterback, about 6'1", 6'2", but he's not the athlete that Hillstead is. He's more of a pocket passer. He wants to throw, and I think you'd have to change your offense a little bit to accommodate the strengths of Bourguet. And then Bear is the most talented of the 3 by a long shot. He's got the size of Bourguet, and he's got the speed and the power that, honestly, Hillstead and Bourguet don't have. So you could really use him more in a run situation, which is what A-Rod loves to do. The most success he's had at BYU has been with guys that are truly dual threat, RPO type guys. You think Jaron Hall, you think Zach Wilson, and a little bit Jake Retzlaff. That's where this BYU offense shines under A-Rod. You would get that with Bear. You just don't know what he's going to do as a true freshman. It's such a wild card. He was a highly recruited guy. So the talent is there. There's no doubt about it. It's just, can he learn the playbook? He wasn't there in spring. He was in Palo Alto in spring. So all the learning of the playbook and familiarizing yourself with the weapons and the receivers and the scheme, that's all happening now. To me, that's a big ask for a guy who's never played a single college football game, but he's easily the most talented of the 3. And maybe you just say this season's somewhat lost a little bit, so let's just give Bears lumps, and you got that easy portion to start the season with the schedule. Maybe that's enough to get him up to speed before, you host Utah in week 7, and then you got that gauntlet after that.
Would you say that now they've got Ryder Lyons coming in a couple years after his mission? Would you say the succession plan, if it works out perfectly, is whoever wins this year, Bear, Bachmeier, Ryder Lyons? Is that the plan now?
100%. Yeah. I think the plan was to have Jake lead you to a Big 12 championship game. I mean, if you can say such a thing, senior quarterback, and build upon 11-2 year, you bring a lot of guys back. Jake leads you to the promised land, to Arlington, and then next year you go to Bear, and then Ryder could be back from his mission then, and then Bear plays another year. Ryder learns, kind of gets back into shape, and then after 2 years of Bear starting, 3 years of Bear in the program, then you turn it over to Ryder Lyons. But now who knows? Maybe Bear gets thrust in early, and you have this year and 2 more years of Bear. But definitely Bear, Bachmeier is the next guy that you want to be the starting quarterback, followed up by Ryder.
We saw the list of players that are going to be at Big 12 Media Days, and obviously I'm sure Retzlaff would have been a part of that, but not. But they have a lot of really good returning pieces, Matt. I mean, it was set up, as you mentioned earlier. And the defense, I don't even know if anyone's really brought that up enough. Dave McCann was on with us earlier. This is going to be a nasty defense. It was a really highly rated defense a year ago.
The defense was spectacular last year. They were top in the Big 12, I think, in forcing turnovers. The only weakness last year defensively was that they didn't have the sack numbers that you wanted, but that didn't seem to be a problem because they won 11 games and they kept people's scoring average at a fairly low clip. This year's the front seven for BYU's defense is outstanding. They bring in 2 transfers at defensive tackle that could be all conference type players. On the edge, you're a little young, but you supplement that with high-end NFL caliber linebackers. And then at the safety position, they could go 3 or 4 deep and not have a drop-off. They are loaded at safety. This defense is great. Their special teams, I think, is near the top of the Big 12. And then offensively, you have a lot of returning receivers. Question mark at tight end, but you bring in Carson Ryan from Utah to give you some experience. Offensive line, a little bit of retooling, but a lot of talent there. Andrew Gentry coming over for Michigan's a big deal. Their running back room, a lot of returners. I mean, it was set up to make a run at the Big 12. And I think that's where this is so unfortunate and so disappointing, is that then if none of this had ever happened, then you'd have a senior quarterback and you would say you have a manageable schedule. You've got a leader at quarterback who you would assume would get better. I mean, last year, Jake, the thing about Jake, guys, is that he did go 11-2, but it was just an average year for Jake. He was 11th in QBR in the Big 12, only 20 TDs, 12 INTs, sub 60% completion percentage. All that can be replaced, but you're losing the experience, and you would just project that a junior to senior after a full year of starting that you would make a jump. So it's really unfortunate because everything else is ready to compete for the Big 12, and now it's just the most important position in sports, honestly, and one of the most difficult positions to pick up quickly. You're now asking someone who has a little experience to do that and help you achieve those goals.
Matthew, a little bit off topic, but I guess in hearing you speak about the Big 12 and kind of where they might find themselves, how much life and just new blood has been pumped in and energy these last couple of years, having this league to compete in, just the conference slate and getting ready for that every year, trying to win the Big 12. I mean, how much has that made things more fun? I guess I should ask it that way. Has it made things more fun in Provo these last couple of years?
It's made things more fun. I think that's a way to put it. Or you could say things have completely changed for BYU. The difference between now and 2 years ago, it's night and day. It's light and dark. Before the Big 12, BYU would have never dreamed of getting a commitment from Rider Lions. And even 2 years ago, before the Big 12, you wondered how much BYU was willing to invest to win. You guys know in college football, it's a keeping up with the Joneses. It's a rat race. NIL, you got to be competitive. Coaching salaries, you need to be competitive. Facilities, recruiting budgets, all of these things, BYU was not competing for its entire existence prior to the Big 12. Then you get to the Big 12, you have a little taste of what it's like to compete at a high level, especially last year where you go 11-2. I feel like that completely invigorized donors, the administration. There's been more financial backing for BYU football now than there's ever been. And you're seeing it on the recruiting trail. You're seeing it in their transfer portal acquisitions. Bear Bachmeier, I don't think, comes to BYU out of Stanford if they're not in the Big 12. You don't get Rider Lions. You don't get Tiger Bachmeier. You don't get Keanu Tanavasa, who transfers down from Utah to BYU to help BYU compete for a Big 12 championship. Everything is different since the Big 12. It's like this league has unlocked an ability for BYU to finally feel okay pumping money into these programs. You're seeing it in basketball too, but this would have never happened without the Big 12. It's something BYU fans dreamed about for years. The what if you paid a coach the going rate? What if the administration and the donors actually put money in and you were willing to compete at the highest level? That was a fun talking point after hard losses for decades. And now we're here and you're starting to see some of the fruits of it. The wins haven't yet come. They got to find a way to get to the Big 12 championship game. They got to break into the playoff to truly realize what these people who are investing want to do. But the fact that you're seeing it, it's the golden era of BYU sports, guys. It's incredible, the excitement in this town for BYU athletics right now.
Matt, we'll let you go. Is there a relief today happened in the last 36 hours.
Oh, for sure. Yes, there's relief. There was a growing fear amongst fans that this was going to hang over the team all season, just not knowing what was going to happen. Was Jake going to be here? Was he not going to be here? Now you can move on and you can plan accordingly, and I think that will only help BYU, although it would have been preferred that, Jake would have just stayed and been the starting quarterback.
Good stuff, man. I'm glad Mitch recommended you. We'll have you again. Thanks for your time, Matt.
Anytime, you guys. Thanks
All right.
for the offer. It was a blast being here with you.
Yeah, Matt Baiamonte from KSL Sports today. We had a couple of different views. Dave McCann earlier, and then Matt as well. And you can see that there's plenty of talent or plenty of good stuff in the cupboard. They just got to kind of get through a couple of the growing pains early on. Somebody, and I forgot who it was in the chat when we were discussing the talent of Retzlaff or whatever. One of the things that I don't know if we brought up, and I just know Matt did, this guy has started, 3 games as a junior or as a sophomore, all of last year for the most part. And that's one thing that the other 3 we've mentioned have not done much of.
No, and the ones who have started haven't started at the Big 12. So the same thing we say about Caden Salter applies to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they haven't played this yet. We got to see. So
I think it's pretty cool. You guys think it's pretty cool that Salter and Lewis will both be at Big 12 Media Days?
I think it's very interesting. And the only coach I know who would ever do something like that is Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's intriguing. I think it's interesting that they are undecided at this point, but I guess you want to get into fall camp and let them battle it out in that setting, and that makes perfect sense. I still feel like it will be Caden Salter. If not, one of two things. Either Salter was I wouldn't consider him a waste because he could still end up playing a whole lot even if he doesn't start game 1, but I just feel like that must mean great things for Julian Lewis if he's sitting there and beating out a guy who's played as much as Caden Salter has at this point. So I'm sure Deion has his reasons for he's massaging things in a way, like by having them both there. But the fact that it might be undecided is definitely interesting. And I'm with the comment on Retzlaff and his experience. I mean, yeah, that's the thing they have to replace. That is the part that you can't just go and create out of thin air. You have to have guys that have been in those huddles, been in those situations to gain that experience, and they don't have that. And the only way they could go get that is through the transfer portal, and clearly that's not going to be the case at this point. So you are left with a room that's very thin on actual in-game starting big-time college football, and that could come back to hurt them in some ways this year. But at the same time, while you do lose that, you are not losing 5-star talent that won you every game or won you most of your games last year where you're like, okay, without him, how do we win? Because you still won even whether he played well or whether he was just average or what have you. You found ways to win games a lot of different ways. So I still think BYU will be a solid team. I do think you take them maybe a peg down if you did have them in your championship conversation, because just until we see these guys, I can't just – I wouldn't feel right just by default going, yeah, Bear Bachmeier still get him to the Big 12 title game. Like, I can't say that with any confidence, but we'll see how these guys start off. It's not out of the question in this league that they can still find their way there, but it's definitely a much more difficult journey now than it was. It's just not – but it's not impossible.
All right, in the next segment, we have Paul's Top 5 around the corner. A couple of notes to get to. One, news on one of our best guests, and we have a ton of them. We'll get to that in the next segment. In fact, he will join us on the show Wednesday. Also, Nick Saban on how he decided to take the LSU job. And,
and Wisconsin's schedule.
And Wisconsin's football schedule. That and more. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for all of your automotive needs. What are you looking to do? You looking to get into a brand new vehicle? You looking to get into a pre-owned vehicle? You looking to just get your vehicle equipped right and running well? Well, they can do all those things for you over at Richard Carr, and just a couple of their offerings right now. They've got the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models in stock. Qualified buyers can save $8,750 on the GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT 2025 models. Also, if you are looking for a pre-owned vehicle right now during the red, white, and blue sales tag event, you can find hundreds of used cars priced to move for your upcoming summer travel. All of the pre-owns have gone through a 172-point inspection, and 100% credit approval is their goal. So they'll help you along with the financing, but they do have something that's it's hard to come by sometimes in driving a vehicle, and that's peace of mind. So if you're one of those, like I was not too long ago, where you're getting in there every day, you're like, I don't know if it's going to turn on, I don't know how long it's going to last, and you're tired of doing that, now is a great time to go get into a vehicle and have that peace of mind while you travel with your family, or you just go about your day-to-day business. They're locally owned, locally run, and celebrating 26 years in Waco. Do business with a dealership that gives back to the local community and deal with people you can count on. And deal with their great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers, everybody, the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
One of our guests that we have on among the numerous college football columnists, writers, analysts, Brett McMurphy. The announcement earlier today, he is headed towards On 3. He has been with the Action Network HQ. He's been a huge guest for us. He was monstrous for us during the realignment and a tremendous insider. He will join the show on Wednesday. It'll be his only radio hit or podcast hit with us on Wednesday. Congratulations to Brett McMurphy, one of the best in the business. Also, go ahead.
No, yeah, good for him. I think we're the only ones that don't work for On 3 at this point. I feel like we're the lone independents, I guess. Yeah. But that's great for Brett and great for college sports that he's going to be around and still doing his thing, reporting. And, fantastic.
All right, he'll join us again Wednesday at 3:30. And then this quick clip from Nick Saban. He was inducted, of course, being inducted to the LSU Sports Hall of Fame. And he was asked about, well, he went from Michigan State to LSU and kind of the background on why he decided on LSU.
I'm really, really proud. Every time I see LSU, all the time I coached at Alabama, I know it was a great rivalry, but I was always proud because I felt like we did something to raise the bar here, and the program has been outstanding ever since. So
and that's why he's the best in the business. Head coach Nick Saban, everybody. Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you.
What happened there? That wasn't the clip?
That's the one you sent me.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Are you serious? That
I'm
was
dead
it?
serious.
All right. Well, I'll do it because we want to get to the Wisconsin football schedule. Basically, what he said, he was at Michigan State, and I think they had just gone 10-2, but he wondered about whether the administration was truly committed to doing what they needed to do to continue that, to not just go 10-2 and then go back to, just being okay. He was invited to come interview at LSU. He said he couldn't do that because if he was caught doing that, then he, of course, would get hammered in East Lansing, along maybe even throughout the country. He sent his wife, Terry, to Baton Rouge. She looked around. They took her on a tour. I think it was even a couple of 3 days. And then finally, he called her and asked her about it. And she said, well, the facilities need an upgrade. They've got issues here. They've got problems here. And then she kept kind of talking about how they were issues, and LSU needed a facelift. Then she said, however, I went in the weight room, and they've got some damn good-looking athletes. And so Saban took the job based on just that, other than the facilities being needed to be upgraded, et cetera, and the rest is history. He led them, of course, to a national championship.
Well, I guess that's bad news for the time she did that same thing in Austin. She got a real estate license and everything down there.
Got to buy a house.
What else?
The job he always wanted.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing that I saw from that, and I didn't pay really much attention to it at all, but the one thing that came across my feed, I guess, was him just talking about LSU and kind of how he was the spark. It wasn't him saying that. It was just some roundabout way of it got to where he was like the spark that fully unlocked LSU and what they could be. And now you see that ever since that early 2000s, what they've done across the board. I mean, they don't have a men's national title in basketball of late, but they've got pretty much everything else they've done at this point. So, I think that he saw that in them and was just the right guy at the right time to unlock their full potential. And then they've had others carry that torch, and you see them, at the top of the college sports conversation more often than not.
So they've won a national title with him. I know back in the day they did too. Les Miles and Ed Orgeron, right?
Yep.
That's how much you set the table, that no matter who the coach was or transition or why, that they kept winning national titles, with Saban setting the tone back when he arrived at from Michigan State. All right.
And the more, I'm not trying to knock Les Miles, but the more, I think about Les Miles and the way, it kind of ended up at the end of his tenure. I mean, Nick Saban, he still had a lot of those staffers. Jimbo Fisher was still on the staff. Mm-hmm. He kept a lot of the staff, which was a really smart thing for him because Nick Saban went to Miami. So he didn't have to worry about, some of those guys were just not, Jimbo Fisher got offered the job as quarterback coach in Miami, but he didn't take it. And so he got to keep those guys. I'm really more impressed with Ed Orgeron than maybe Les Miles because that was distance enough out for what Saban did. And he was just a recruiter and so disorganized in every other fashion to be able to throw that together and then throw Joe Burrow in the mix of it and get that. To me, pretty impressive, not to knock Les Miles, but maybe kind of a Barry Switzer thing a little bit there. And I don't want to knock Barry either, but like he did with the Cowboys.
Oh, you mean the table was set?
The table was
just
set
don't
when he
screw it
got
up?
there. Yeah. And Barry would tell you, he knew that he was getting a good gig.
I think Orgeron brought a difference, kind of maybe was a good change of pace with what they had with Les Miles.
But
all right, we are continuing to go through the various schedules. We're closing in on ending up the Big Ten and Wisconsin, the Badgers, and Luke Fickell.
Yeah, Luke Fickell. A lot of people feel like he's based on just the various rankings and general conversation, probably on one of the hotter seats in college football. They were 5-7 a year ago, 3-6 in the Big Ten. He's now entering his third season, and they have to win some games or it's going to get quite heated up in Madison. But they failed to make a bowl game, and now it's a conversation about what's in store for 2025 because that is in the past, but it is what we last saw them doing was finishing 5-7. So what does 2025 look like for the Badgers? Scheduling-wise, again, for those randoms that may just completely be joining us out of the blue, this is not a full-on, in-depth, deep dive on the entire week-to-week and the overall record and things like that. This is just a look at the road they're traveling. And so for Wisconsin, that will start on a Thursday, and that will be their only non-Saturday game of the year. But Thursday, August the 28th, Big Ten Network game. They will take on Miami of Ohio at home. Then Saturday, September the 6th, still at home. Middle Tennessee travels to town. That game will be FS1, and I think those are the only two networks announced at this point. Don't really care much about that, but just saying it. So then Saturday, September the 13th, when it really gets juicy after a couple of games you'd expect them to win, their non-con pops and jumps up to a different level as they will travel to Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide on Saturday, September the 13th. Already been announced as an 11 a.m. kickoff. So Bama on the road for Wisconsin there in week number 3 to round out that non-conference schedule. Then one more game before they get into that first bye week. They'll close out the month of September post-Alabama the following Saturday at home against Maryland to start Big Ten play. So that will be followed by a bye, the first of 2, like everybody has on the schedule this year. And I'll leave it there. Miami of Ohio at home, Middle Tennessee at home, at Alabama, Maryland at home, the first month of the season for Luke Fickell and his Badgers.
This is going to be a landmine that they got to maneuver through.
But by the way, if you would like to know a school that just popped into my mind where Jake Retzlaff might fit,
Wisconsin.
This one right here.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, their quarterback depth chart leaves a little to be desired. So outside of their true freshman recruit, Carter Smith from Bishopville High School. But yeah, this first month is, I mean, they should be able to navigate it, I guess, fairly well. I mean, depending on what Maryland is, but going to Alabama is never fun. It's never fun. And especially not when you're would like to get a nice non-conference win, to kind of send a message to the world that you're here. That's maybe not the place you want to do it, or you can do it. But if they could, hell, that would be one hell of a story. But
be a hell of a win, yeah. I mean, that'd be a great win early on for them. So after the bye week, they'll come back and they'll have had 2 weeks to prepare for a trip to the Big House against the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday, October the 4th. Then they will be at home the following 2 weeks, hosting Iowa and then Ohio State. They're on October the 18th. And how's this for a run, guys? Are y'all paying attention to who I'm mentioning here? So at Michigan, home against Iowa, home against Ohio State, and with no breaks in between any of these games, then they travel to Oregon. So that is their second stretch of this schedule. At Michigan, Iowa and Ohio State at home, at Oregon. If anybody's got a middle four on paper that's better than that, I want to see it because I would love to see it because I don't know if there's many of them that are that stout on paper as that little 4-game stretch for Wisconsin here.
To have Alabama, Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, and Oregon and
3 of them are on the road.
Yeah, 3 of them on the road in your first, two-thirds of the season is nuts. I mean, if Wisconsin, if they're way better than we think they are and say they are undefeated after Oregon, cancel the rest of the season for everybody.
Yeah.
That's the best team that's ever lived.
They
could swallow 2001 Miami whole. I mean, that is a ridiculous stretch of games and places you've got to go.
Yeah, and I Googled the other day, I just out of curiosity, what the toughest non-cons were, and I wrote them down. I left the paper, I think, but Oklahoma was on there, of course. Florida's got a very tough schedule this year. Wisconsin was definitely on that list. They were on that list. I saw Texas on that list too, which I guess they got the big non-con game. But I didn't look at theirs and really think that. We'll get to them, though, I guess, because we haven't done the SEC yet. But maybe upon further review, theirs is up there as well. But Oklahoma, Florida were obvious, and Wisconsin now is very obvious as well. So, yeah, that's a hell of a second chapter of the 2025 book. And then they'll close it out the final month after the bye week, after that Oregon road trip. Washington at home on Saturday, November the 8th. Road trip to Indiana against the playoff Hoosiers. Home against Illinois on November the 22nd, and then on Saturday, November the 29th, they will close things out with a road trip to take on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So their final four: Washington at home, Indiana on the road, Illinois at home, Minnesota on the road. So, man, they do have 7 home games. Like, everybody's pretty much able to design that it's in a power league at least. But outside of that, I mean, their 5 road trips are Tuscaloosa, Ann Arbor, Eugene, and then you have Indiana and Minnesota, who in their own right are, Indiana's at its peak right now.
Yeah.
And Minnesota's just no pushover. I mean, they'll give you a fight. So, yeah, man, that's a hell of a 5-game road schedule that they have right there. It's a lot of fun for fans to travel, though, in terms of seeing cool places and everything. But
this schedule seems inhumane, because if Washington takes off too, if they're in the mix,
they're not even being talked about as what they were just a couple years ago, right?
If they hit in year 2 of Jed Fish, if Minnesota just stays who they are, which is a 7-5 team.
Yeah, they're a bowl team
that will get you in a bare knuckle brawl in a second. If Iowa stays exactly who they are, which I think they're actually going to be better this year because their offense appears to be growing. If Maryland stays exactly who they are, which are teams that are not, they're not great, but they're not pushovers, and you throw Alabama into the mix on top of all that, this is going to be – I really like Luke Fickell, and I hope Wisconsin does well. If they get to 6-6, that's one hell of a 6-6.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they didn't make a bowl game last year. They made it in 2023. Yeah, man. I mean, this is if you make a bowl game, I think you feel pretty good about it. I mean, you really do. So
if Illinois and Indiana just hold, if everybody is who they think they're going to be, even if Washington's just good, that's still, there's no gimmies in their schedule. And look, even Middle Tennessee has had their big wins over the days. They beat Miami once. So after even Miami, Ohio, God, they don't have any gimmies on this.
No.
Because those teams can jump up and bite people at times.
Yeah, so this is Wisconsin, and as far as who they don't play, and we'll round it out with this, they miss Michigan State. They do not play Nebraska. They don't play Northwestern, don't play Penn State, Purdue, Rutgers, or either of the LA schools, UCLA or USC. So you can't play every name brand because the conferences are too big, but they damn sure came pretty close. They came as close as anybody else I've seen in the Big Ten this year, and we've done every schedule, I think. Is this the last one, or is there another one?
Yeah, this is the last one.
Okay, so we've done every single Big Ten schedule, and this is by far the toughest little grouping of the big name brands that any team has on their schedule, and then most of them are on the road, which is also crazy. So that's or a lot of them are on the road. But yeah, there you go. There's the Wisconsin schedule in 2025. Man,
what?
Lot to chew on.
Luke Fickell they have Illinois at the end of the year with Bielema, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can't lose that game. Bielema was pretty successful. When he was at Wisconsin, he had a tough
he left
time
to go
at
to Arkansas, which I think would make them all mad.
But I mean, good Lord, look at those alphas on that schedule.
If you told me during their bye weeks, somebody from the Big Ten office gets to come and throw rocks at the players, that's essentially the schedule. That would be oh, well,
okay.
All right. But between Oregon and Washington, we get to wear our full pads, but they're throwing rocks at us, guys, so be careful.
Jeez, if they accidentally throw up on themselves in any of the games that you would think they win, they're screwed.
Well, there's 3 of those maybe. I mean, there's the first 2 games, and then there's maybe you'd say Maryland, but I don't think you can just guarantee that by any means. So I think there's 2 games that you'd say, they should be 2-0, and then after that, it's all bets are off.
Every game they play after that, they could lose. And if they can win any of them, like you said, Paul, my God, just claim them as the best team of all time. Thank you very much, Craig. Wisconsin, the Badgers, and Luke Fickell, who was the wonder boy at Cincinnati, and now trying to get the ship righted in Madison, Wisconsin. Paul Catalina's top 5 and also Andrew Valade's poll results next on 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. They've got some great stuff. Their shirts are unbelievable. Most comfortable t-shirt I've worn. Some great polos, great everything at flagandanthem.com. Big 12 Transfer Newcomer Series continues, Provo edition. Now, a little confession. We shot a version of this last week, got all the way to the end, and obviously the news today made us have to reshoot it. I would like to be honest with you, the viewer. Now, most people would not say anything, but I am saying something. So, now that there's clarity, it actually makes it a little bit easier. Number 5, defensive end Tassili Akana has not hit his complete stride yet, was recruited heavily by BYU early in his high school process, now steps in to try and fill the massive shoes left by Tyler Batty, who is gone. They need pass rush help. He's going to fit in well there at BYU with Kalani Sitake and squad, but a big one he has to perform this year for them to be in the running once again. He's a very important transfer to them. Number 4, defensive lineman Justin Kirkland. Just a fire hydrant in the middle. I mean, he's probably bigger than a fire hydrant. I'm more of a fire hydrant guy. This guy's more of like the water tower. I don't know. Either way, big guy. He's played in a lot of big games. Look, there he is in the last Bedlam. As a matter of fact, played in big games, can really plug up the middle and stop the run. Needed a change of scenery. Gets that with BYU. Again, another good reinforcement for their defense. Number 3, tight end Carson Ryan. This one's a double whammy. You get to stick it to Utah. By the way, you guys have the most toxic rivalry in the world, and that includes Texas and Texas A&M. Utah and BYU. You guys really, really don't get along. A&M and Texas, like, they can be in the same room together. I don't know if you guys can be in the same room together. Now you're just stealing other people. It's like the Montagues and the Capulets here. Shakespeare reference. Smartest talk show in America. Carson Ryan, the tight end,
gives their offense a target in the middle of the field and also takes away from Utah, which I'm sure is the icing on the cake for BYU fans. Again, toxic rivalry, guys. Just learn to be in a room together. But Carson Ryan, good tight end, comes out of a really good tight end developing program in Utah as well. Number 2, tackle Andrew Gentry. Look at this massive dude right here. Massive. Played at Michigan, one of the best places for developing offensive linemen and defensive linemen in the country. They do really well with the big dogs. Andrew Gentry comes in to protect the quarterback, and the quarterback is more than likely Bear Bachmeier. As Jake Retzlaff, the lawsuit has been dismissed. Both parties filed a joint motion, so Jake Retzlaff will be suspended 7 games for violating the BYU's honor code by having premarital sex, which is a very strange thing that your legal defense that you didn't commit a horrible crime was, I had consensual sex, but then that also cost you your spot at a school where you signed the honor code. You went there knowing that this was. However you may feel about said honor code, doesn't matter once you sign it. Once you sign it, you have to adhere to it, and that's a both sides kind of a thing. And so if you get caught breaking one of those rules, you're going to get suspended. So likely suspended 7 games. Jake Retzlaff now off to the transfer portal. Where he goes, we'll see at a later date. But Bear Bachmeier transferred in from Stanford. He is likely to be the first choice going in. But if you're a BYU fan and you're worried about Jake Retzlaff leaving, and look, you have every right to be. Remember that before last year, Jake Retzlaff didn't get the starting job until Tuesday of the first week of the season. So he was in a battle with Gary Bohannon the entire time. Now Bear Bachmeier, the rest of the quarterbacks in the roster can battle out to see. It's likely Bear Bachmeier who will be the starter. We will see what happens at BYU because of this. But that makes him the number 1 most important because he comes in at a time where they're going to have a lot of questions to answer at the quarterback position, and he's got an opportunity to step in and help a team that was very good last year try and be very, very good again, and they seem to be loaded for that. But time will tell. That's going to do it for the top 5. Smokey's got some polls to read. See you tomorrow.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. The updated list with what's happening today, full coverage from us today on the BYU quarterback race, and also the story with Jake Retzlaff leaving. Now the question will be, and maybe we'll know an answer sooner than later, where's he going to end up to play college football? Here we go, Andrew Valade. Are you excited for, we didn't get to this, but Craig, maybe you'll have some more on it tomorrow, the EA Sports college basketball game. I got to tell you, I'm not a video game like anything, but when the football news came out that it was coming back, I was like, holy crap, that's a big deal. With this one, it was like, oh, did that tree fall in the forest? But I know that I'm in the minority or not.
Yeah, I think you definitely are for the target audience. I mean, of people who cover college sports, I think that this was good news for those. But you don't play video games, so you're not really the target audience. But you're in. It's
not a 66-year-old.
No. Oh, look, I'll be 40.
I mean, it's for
I'll
whoever.
be 48 when this comes out, and I'm thrilled about it.
I mean, there's plenty of. I mean, maybe that is your next chapter. Is you're going to be a big Twitch star playing NCAA basketball on PS5 or something. Hey, whatever brings in the
here's
bills.
The sound of my game. Doink.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't Pong, but
yeah.
I think this is really cool for those who have been pining for this for a long time, and this was pretty much the predicted outcome when you saw the football game come back, was it immediately turned to, all right, well, what about the basketball game? And I would imagine we're going to get a College World Series game sooner rather than later at this rate, right? That would be what you would think is up next, and they did do that once upon a time. So
and it was awesome.
I don't know if I ever even played that. Yeah. I don't even remember playing it if I did, but I would imagine that's probably at least in discussion. But this was, to be expected, I think, and yet you weren't for sure. So to get that news today, for those that were excited about the possibilities, this is a great day. And I'll definitely be interested in checking it out. And I know there's a lot of people that are excited that love college basketball and wanted a game badly. So that's cool.
All right, so there's the results, 53%. Yeah, let's go. And then also outside of football, which other sports would you like to see us dive into more as we continue to expand our content? Basketball. I think college basketball is already pretty much on a part of our content. 54% 27% baseball, 12% Garrett Ross, and 7% David Smoke.
Yeah. We'll happily do more of that. I'll have to learn a little bit more about hockey.
No. We'll get an occasional guest and we'll let Garrett interview them.
Yeah. No, I look.
Garrett can pre-record that or something. Yeah, there we go.
I know enough to be dangerous, but then we get like down in the weeds of like, if it's the Stars versus the Bruins, I'm kind of screwed on the Bruins. You know?
Well, UCLA doesn't play very good hockey anyway, so don't have to worry about that.
I did see that the Bruins drafted the kid from Boston College this week.
That's a smart thing in hockey.
Adam Sandler dressed as Happy Gilmore, with his Bruins jersey on, announced it. So
good for them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to be mostly college football and pro football as well once that really revs up. But it's always good to hear the audience's opinion. And yeah, I think college basketball we talk a good bit of, but I think we'll touch on all these still no matter what, and maybe lean certain ways a little bit harder. But it's always good to get that response from the audience. So we'll see how that plays out.
It's like during the Stars' little run that did not last as long as Garrett Ross expected.
It did not.
But we had a couple of great guests on. And
really exactly as long as they pretty much always go.
It was spot on. It was spot on.
And
the conference finals is the end of the season for the Stars.
And I don't know if we'll do a British Open thing, Paul, because I guess we can.
Yeah, we will.
In July, after no one won the U.S. Open. All right.
That's the thing is, if we're going to do it, y'all got to get better at your picks. I feel like the last three freaking majors.
Shots fired.
Do I need to rejoin this bad boy to get to?
Well, wait a minute. What is that? Like the second or third week? So we got to get Emery under the radar to that one. We got to get him into that. Get him on record. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Great stuff. Also, Garrett Ross running the mothership. Emery will be editing, dicing, slicing. All of what we have that we run tonight, 10:30 on the local CW 365 Sports Tonight. Tim Brando is locked in for tomorrow. John McClain off the radar. Just a few of the things we have, and maybe the latest on BYU if we have anything new on Retzlaff and where he's going. From Craig Smoke and for Paul Catalina, our great sponsors, thank you. Tomorrow, we're back at it at 3. Tonight, 10:30, 365 Sports Tonight. I'm David Smoke, and good night.